They have a meeting, you know that, on the 12th.
Oh, the 12th. 12th of September. I thought that was the county.
But what's the meeting, because this was Alan's wording, I got the 20th.
Yeah, the county.
Is that-
The county is for the city of St. Bernard.
All right. We'll now call the city council special workshop to open at 6 p.m. for August 21st. Please rise to the invocation and pledge of allegiance. We have former Commissioner George Hall. Would you mind giving the invocation tonight?
Let's pray. Lord, we love you. We thank you for the opportunity you've given us to serve you today. Lord, I thank you for each person here. Lord, we thank you for our community. Lord, I pray for these that you have selected to lead over us. God, grant us all wisdom and grant us peace tonight. Lord, let us share from your heart. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America.
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Madam Clerk, you'll please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Councilmember McGuire. Here. Councilmember McCure.
Here.
Councilmember Taylor.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Bernard.
Here.
Mayor Anderson.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Obviously, the reason for tonight's meeting, we had an ever increasing amount of citizens that were bringing to our attention the amount of homeless that is increasing in our city. Some of them had some ideas, some of them had some concerns. So we're here tonight to listen to all of that and see if there's possibly some solutions to make life a little better for all of our citizens here in Avon Park. I'd like to welcome Commissioner Elwell here tonight. See you out in the audience. We have a lot of community members out here. We've had probably the most amount of participation at this meeting than we've had in a really long time. So it's good to see. Having said that, we will get it underway. Now we have the list of agencies here in our packet. Do you want to start at the top with code enforcement, or how would you like?
Sure.
All right. Randy, batter up. I believe you were tasked with gathering a little bit of information and kind of giving us an overview of what you're seeing on the ground.
Yeah, part of my day is beginning of every morning. I try to take a loop of the known areas where throughout the city that have a homeless issue. I sat down the other day with one of the code officers. We came up with 27 different locations throughout the city that we have displaced homeless people from those locations. They range from the area where Ollie's is, that shopping center, to over to Main Street, down Main Street, down North Lake Avenue, and everywhere basically in between. A lot of it, we did start out at those plazas. We had issues behind the, I don't remember the place that does the check cashing, Amscott. We also had issues behind the Ollie's, on the side of Ollie's, in front of Ollie's, same people. We displaced them 3 different times, finally leaving that area. We have, I would say, I don't know. I personally feel that it's getting less. At first, there was quite an influx, but I would say there's probably about 8 to 10 normal people. When I say normal, I mean around the city, and of those citizens, a lot of them actually reside here. I keep hearing rumors that they're bussing people in, and they're coming from all over. I don't find that to be the case. Some of these people I know from my prior law enforcement background. Some of these people I know came from Clewiston. We had a couple others that came from up north, but I don't see, I hear a lot of things in the street. I mean, I hear that it's just, they're dropping them off in buses and then the train station and they're just coming up here to Avon Park. That's just absolutely not true. It's absolutely not true. But we do have what I would call some frequent flyers in and out of the local jail that when they're released, they end up finding their way back up here. They've lived here most of their lives, got a brother and a sister, in particular, a nephew of the same family. It's not indicative of any one race. It's white, it's black, it's Latin, it's male, it's female. And right now we've done a few things. We're trying to, and people think that code enforcement has all this magic power that we can arrest them and make them move. And I'm here to tell you, we don't. We operate under a Florida statute 162 that allows us to do certain things. And within those things, basically what we've learned is our job is right now is to displace, and simply means to move from one place to another. And what we try to do is move people out of ordinary sight, especially in the business districts, Main Street in particular, because that kind of is the face of Avon Park. But, you know, driving here tonight, I looked over at the gazebo and there's somebody sleeping up on the gazebo as I was driving in. So again, that's not illegal in itself, but we've tried a few mitigation things. Myself and Vinny, we're not simple as picking up shopping carts. People, if you see a lot of these shopping carts sitting around the city, they're stuffed with homeless remnants. We're going to demo the old Yana building. For those of you who don't know where the old Yana building is, it's on South Railroad Avenue, 120 South Railroad. Numerous trespass warnings have been given from there. Drug paraphernalia, drugs strewn throughout the property, human waste, arson, God knows what else goes on there. I will tell you that the sheriff's office, I've spoke to a bunch of their different deputies, and they do patrol that area quite a bit. You can tell looking through there that people come and go, but there's not the overnight residents that we've had in the past. So we're going to demo that. That's going to hopefully move some of the people out of there. We've another simple thing on the old CVS, I'm sorry, the telephone company over there in Jim Rogers. Yeah, Century. They had as simple as a bench sitting outside of their front door. We were able to get with CenturyLink security and they removed the bench. Just that little simple thing took care of the problem over there. There's an alleyway that runs in between CenturyLink and I think it's 22 North Lake Avenue. Gideon Hole, there's a little cubby hole back there and they had 2, 3, 4 people sleeping back in there. We displaced them from there by getting hold of the owner of the residence and asking them to call the sheriff's office if they didn't move voluntarily. And luckily they moved on after that because they did do what they said. Some people, the first part was, yeah, we're sympathetic to their plight. We don't really want to call the sheriff's office. And honestly, that's the last thing we want to do as well. I mean, this isn't arresting is going to fix all the problem in my view. And I'm pretty sure everybody else would agree with that. So we've done that. A good working relationship with the sheriff's office, a lot of intel going back and forth about where they're moving to. When I say there, I mean, that sounds kind of hard. I call them transient occupants. That's probably the best way to refer to this subject matter, for lack of a better word. So if they're on the city property, we ask them to leave. They don't leave, I have to call the sheriff's office. Sheriff's office, I don't want to take away from their thumb, they can explain it to you, but then they tell them to leave and they give them, it doesn't mean they leave within 10 minutes. You can look at one of these places and you can see it's going to take them a day to move all their possessions. So it's not like we're coming down hard, but they have to leave. I mean, they're in wooded areas behind the substation, which is the sheriff's office substation. And all you look back there, you see drug paraphernalia, you see butane torches, which is commonly used for methamphetamine use. You see crack pipes, also known as stems. You see all that. I can't believe the woods haven't already went up in flames, but that's why we have to move them from there. It's a liability for the city. If we leave them there, if something happens back there, we know about it. We didn't do anything to mitigate it. I'm not an attorney, but I know that how liability works, and I know the deep pockets theory. And city's going to end up getting sued. So we move people from there. Basically, the trespass warnings, the shopping carts. Another simple thing. They were charging their phones on Main Street in the middle of the mall, as you call it. There was numerous different charging station or actually outlets down there. We cut the power to all those. That may sound heartless, but it took care of a lot of the issues at first, kind of displaced them. Again, there's that word, into different areas of the city. So we grab abandoned property. We just try to educate them. We try to tell people, you know, it's not a crime to be homeless, but at some point we have to do something. There are no ordinances on the book for us to enforce. You see them all day long. There's people panhandling on the side of the streets out on 27 and Main Street, holding their signs. Again, I'll let the sheriff's office speak on the can and can'ts do's on that, but it looks like the city, when you see this, it almost looks like the city's not doing anything about any of it. I can tell you there's nothing further from the truth. The city is doing what we can legally and morally, I guess, for lack of a better word, with the issue. So I don't want to I guess I'm probably a little too long-winded, but I will answer any questions as they come up from the crowd or.
All right. Well, we do have a lot of speakers, so we'll try to get through this in an orderly fashion. But number one, Randy, relax. You're not on trial tonight, so take it easy. Do you have any actual numbers of how many trespass warnings you've handed out?
On behalf of the city,
Yeah.
11.
11. Okay.
11.
And that's within the last, 12 months or?
Yes,
Okay. Do you have any prior years?
it really was. No, we really didn't. Honestly, we didn't really have a problem.
Okay.
where-
So all this has popped up in the last 12 months?
I would say, yeah, within the
Okay.
last 12 months.
All right. And officially, it's the city's policy that all of our public areas are closed after dusk, right?
The city parks and that, yes.
So anyone that's caught in any of the city properties after dark, they're asked to leave and trespass if they don't do so, right?
I would assume, we close up shop at 5, so that would be somebody else.
Okay. All right. Do we have any other questions for code enforcement from the council?
You did a great job, Randy. Thank you.
All right. We'll move on. City manager, anything to add?
Just a quick one to what Randy added, that for the past few months, he and his one lone code enforcement officer, we have an opening in case anybody knows someone wants to put in, but that's been their main job, really. Trying to keep Main Street clean with the stuff that's out there and sanitation. I'm calling them all the time, help clean up out there, but really it's their main job. And I guess my main thing is, we keep hearing do something about it, but Randy kind of pass on you what they can legally do, and I'm sure the sheriff will pass on, but it's what we legally can do and what we can't do. That's the big one. We got to remember, everybody has the same constitutional rights, and America is actually a foreign spy that happens to be here has it. So that's it, Mayor. I mean, as it goes on, I might have more, but.
Okay. Jerry, anything to add?
I gave you a memo basically on my position regarding this and provide you with some just some ordinances that I found. I'm not saying they're all legal. We gave you a bunch, of ordinances to look at and just get an idea of what other cities have done, not just in Florida, but throughout the country. And I gave you a bunch of articles on mostly areas that had enforcement issues. Be happy to speak on the the ordinance with the memo when you want me to.
If we were to kind of sum it up without necessarily giving legal advice here, is that basically we can have an anti-camping ordinance. However, you can't simply arrest someone for being homeless. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think I concluded in my memo that prior to any substantial enforcement such as arrest, there must be sheltering for the homeless made available and refused. Ordinances with camping or similar homeless prohibitions must clearly prohibit arrests when there is no availability or viable alternatives such as housing in a homeless shelter.
All right. Any questions for Jerry at this point?
I would just simply say that that's just what I was able to do along with everything else this week. I know I could spend at least another 2 weeks on researching this issue because there's nuances within nuances with regard to how it's handled throughout the country. And it is handled throughout the country similarly because it's based on federal law.
Okay. All right. Sheriff's Office. Sheriff, it's a pleasure to have you here tonight. Thank you for coming.
My honor to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I'm going to just touch base on a few things. First and foremost, I believe Mr. LaBelle and Mr. Burr have both keyed on it. It is not against the law to be homeless. Cannot simply stop someone who we might think is homeless as they're walking down the street and request ID. And if they can't produce it, we can lock them up. That just doesn't happen in the United States or the state of Florida. And thank God for that. So we are certainly more than willing and able to respond to any needs of the city, any of the business owners or residents that live within the city to address some sort of issue that they might have with someone who they feel is homeless that's on their property. We'd be more than happy to do that. And Captain McGann is here with me and Major Hood that both oversee the law enforcement in this area. So we're more than happy to handle any of that you might address. We do see from our experience, and I think Mr. LaBelle touched on this as well. When we first arrive on scene, a lot of folks want to issue a trespass warning, and then their hearts start to bleed a little bit, and they start to feel maybe an arrest is not the best thing if someone doesn't want to leave or if they come back. And then we get there and we're just asked them to leave again. That doesn't seem to work a lot because sometimes or most times they both come right back right after you've asked them to leave. I think the city has taken some good steps, some proactive steps in that they're taking away some of the resources that some of these folks use, which causes them to congregate at different areas. I heard the CVS was mentioned earlier, and I know the Jacaranda was I don't know if it's been mentioned yet, but it's one of the areas that we have to respond to. And basically they're going there to charge whatever piece of technology that they might have. So they're looking for power. So if some of these places would take that resource away, I think they would congregate there a lot less. And then they're also going to congregate in areas where other resources are available to them, showers or food or that kind of stuff. We see that all the time. So if there's something in that area, they're going to hang out there because they want to be the first on the scene to get whatever the resource is. So that's just something that our business partners and our citizens need to think about when they're closing up shop at night or when they're opening up the next morning or whatever, to try to make sure that resource, if you don't want them around, make sure that resource is not available to them. Mayor, we did pull some numbers on amounts of trespass warnings pulled and how many we respond to over a period of time. However, we don't think the right way to put this. We don't clear calls based on someone's whether they have a home or not. So example would be we issue a lot of trespass warnings at the Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it doesn't mean just because someone went in there and tried to steal something and they didn't like what they were doing, they issued a trespass warning to them. That those aren't necessarily homeless people that are in there doing that.
Right.
So our numbers, we can give you those numbers, but they're not accurate or pinpointing just the homeless population, if that makes sense.
Sure.
I believe Mr. LaBelle also talked about a little bit of the panhandling. So We ran into that a little bit in Sebring, and it's been my experience, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, we don't see it as much in Avon Park as we were seeing it in Sebring, but we do have a few. As long as someone is standing on a public piece of property and holding a sign, that is covered under free speech. And we cannot constitutionally, we cannot go take that ability from them to say that you can't hold a sign or that you can't stand here. It's just, we can't do that. We don't have that authority. I do believe that there is some ordinances that can be drafted up that would prevent people from giving them something, whether it be food or money or whatever. You can prevent that, but you cannot prevent someone from standing on public property and holding a sign. And that we have researched that very thoroughly. And there is some other agencies across the state that have been sued for a violation of someone's civil rights. And, you know, it's caught up in the court systems as we speak, and we're waiting to see how that plays out. But until that time, we have instructed our folks to not do anything about it at this point. Go there and talk to them, have a conversation, make sure that they're safe, make sure that the community that's around them is safe as possible, and then we leave. We have made a few arrests of some folks that was, I believe it was the city involving the property just north of our North District, and made some arrests in that area. And as Mr. LaBelle had indicated, most of those were drug-related type charges. And we were able to get those folks off the street, and we did issue some trespass warnings, and the city has been very cooperative with us in prosecuting those folks that want to come back and try to, you know, do criminal activity in those areas. Mayor, that's all I really have, but we're obviously here. We'd love to sit and listen to ideas and, you know, any suggestions that anyone has to see if it's something that we can do and move forward through, and try to make the city of Avon Park as safe as possible as we can. So we'll be here for the duration, and we'll be more than happy to take questions on specific issues.
Much appreciated. Jerry, were you about to say something?
Oh, yeah, I just following up on the fine statement that the sheriff made. I just want to point out that any ordinance that, you know, we attempt to do, the more directed it is towards the status of somebody being homeless, the more likely it's going to be found to be unconstitutional or illegal. The more it's directed towards public safety, health, welfare, and even aesthetics, the more likely it's going to be upheld under the circumstances that I mentioned earlier, those two circumstances. So I just want to make that point.
Okay. Do you have any questions for the sheriff at this point? Yes, ma'am. If you could, excuse me, you'll have to, just for everyone, you'll have to come up to the microphone and give your name and address for the record, and then you can ask your
My
question.
name is Shirley Torella. I'm at 645 Ballberry Loop, Avon Park, Florida.
Yes, ma'am.
My question is, you know, I'm sitting here and I'm hearing all this, right?
Mhm.
And I see so many buildings that are like emptied with the boards up and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Has anybody ever thought of maybe opening up a shelter for the homeless, giving them a probationary time to be able to get out and to get into society, to hold a job and stuff like that? Or a lot of them, you got to remember, they used to have jobs. They used to have homes. They're put in this predicament of what has happened in the past of high rise prices and everything. So it's not really their fault where they're at this time. Some can, some I agree. But you have so many of them, and there's so many. Avon Park, Sebring, they help out. Avon Park here, we have a group for men, a shelter for drugs, and women, the shelter for the, but where is a shelter for families that can actually want to get help and get out of the situation that they're in? How can we do that to keep them from being on the streets and being homeless? How can we resolve that matter? Even if we had volunteers,
Sure.
and we've got a lot that would go into these shelters and help with people like that.
Yep.
Just wanted to say that I had suggested earlier that the city get together with the other two cities and the county and try and figure out if we can get grants for a homeless shelter somewhere within the county, or shelters or whatever. Just because that really is the key to any enforcement.
That would be great if we could do something that would help our community too. I mean, Avon Park is beautiful and everything, and I understand the homeless. I make bags up for some of these families, and it's heartbreaking to know that they once had a home, they once had a job, they had all of this. But unfortunately, because of what's going on with the prices and everything with jobs and the rents gone sky high, lights gone high, some people are an unfortunate situation. And as a community, I think that it would help if we could show them a little bit of hope to get them out.
Well, the one issue we have is zoning, that we can't, I mean, just because the building's boarded up, we can't violate the zoning. That puts us in violation of the law to do
Right.
that. So that some of the Main Street buildings you're talking about, or that area, downtown area that are boarded up can't be done because of zoning. And it can't obviously be put in a residential area. But there's got to be some place that it can happen.
Well, even the Safari Inn in Sebring, I'll recommend families to go there. And 99% of the time, there's nothing open.
Okay.
Safari Inn, you can forget. They only stay for a little while, but after that, they leave. But then when half of that is closed up,
Mhm.
people can't get in. They have no choice but to walk the streets or be in the car or whatever. But
Sure.
when you only have one shelter, and that's way over in Sebring, that's like 15, 20 miles from here, I want to say.
Yeah.
Or 10. Still, you have families that can't even get in there. So
Was there a question for the sheriff himself or?
that's for our community, that's for everyone in
Right.
here
Okay,
that I
Well-
want to address.
sure. I understand. And we'll get to the general questions later. That,
Okay, thank you.
what I posed to the crowd specifically was if there any questions for the sheriff himself,
Thank
but we're
you.
at, but thank you for the comment. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Same thing, name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, Joseph Herrera. I live in a tiny house off grid, State Road 27.
Okay, again, is this a question for the sheriff?
No, it's an answer. It's a statement. I'd like to thank the sheriff and the deputies of Highlands County. We had an incident with my wife. She has mental illness 2 years ago. And I like the professionalism that your whole department handled the situation. We've had some,
If we can get you to speak towards the microphone there.
we've had some experience also with Polk County. And both counties have been very professional, very compassionate in the way they've handled things. So I just wanted to say that people are on edge ever since COVID started and even after COVID. There's still some people that are having difficulty. So the compassion and the understanding of the sheriff department really helps.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you very much. There's no further questions for the sheriff. All right. We do have several organizations here that do offer services to the homeless. First on the list is Hands for the Homeless. We have a representative here for Hands for the Homeless.
Yes, my name is Joy. My name is Joy Brastrom. Thank you for the opportunity for us to speak today. And one of the things that we want to share is that we're looking for partnerships for this challenge. It is a challenge. It's not a problem we can solve. We can't put 8 people on a bus and send them out of town and say homelessness solved. That's not going to happen. It's a challenge that every community has. So I like hearing that. Let's look at what some of the other communities have done. Lake Wales has a care center, and they have taken over some old hotels and made some different opportunities for daytime or evening rather shelter for homelessness. And so let's check with Lake Wales. Let's look at what Arcadia is doing. Let's look at what some of the other communities around us are doing, and let's definitely look into some grants for that opportunity. We're looking to build a building that will do some education. We do a lot of case management. We do a lot of helping them get their ID. Without an ID, you can't fill out an application for a job. Without a computer, you can't fill out an application for a job. If you can't get mail, you can't get that ID. And so there's a lot of pieces that go into solving the issue. The other thing that we are hoping for with community is there are a lot of us organizations that do work with the homeless, and we work with the folks that are here, but the majority of our numbers are not those 8 or 10 folks that are considered without homes. There are children that we're feeding. There are vets that we're feeding. And those folks are simply, some of them are senior citizens that have to make choices between, do I pay for my medicine or do I pay for food? And so offering food is what we do tremendously, but the case management part of what we do, we've extended our office hours. We're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 4. There's someone in an office. And so we're trying to help. It's a community challenge. And so we're hoping that the city will partner with us, and we can partner with each of these agencies. Then we can look for some different opportunities, grant wise or however. We're hoping to get that building built with some post office boxes in there, with showers in there, with some opportunities for education. What are their resources in the community? How do they know what those resources are? How can we get them off the street? But we really need a strong partner for mental health. We don't have a strong partner for mental health currently. And that's one of our biggest challenges, is some of the mental health folks that we deal with on a daily basis, is how do we help them when they don't have the resources to go to? We don't have a place or a partner that we can call and say, hey, I got a folks that really need some direction, or that really need counseling, or that really need assistance. We don't have a strong mental health partner. So we're looking for that. But we want to work with the city as much as possible. And we have rules about, you can only stay on our site for an hour. So they're supposed to be gone. And we are so appreciative of law enforcement who respond to us at the Treasure Chest. We're also a business in town. And so we call them frequently to trespass or to deal with the disruptors. But there aren't as many disruptors as there are. We have fed 7,700 children since January. Big numbers. And that's folks that are living. We work with the liaison officer at the schools. So we know who those kids are. We know who the vets are. And we're trying to reach out. And I know our sister organizations have some of those same issues. We call each other all the time. So I thank you for the opportunity to lay out there where we're at, what we're looking to do, and to challenge all of us. Let's reach out to Lake Wales Care Center and see how they're doing what they're doing. Let's look out at Arcadia and see what they're doing. Let's look at some of the bigger cities. We're not attracting folks here. They're already here. And it's not a problem we can solve. It's a challenge that's an ongoing thing. And we're looking for solutions as well.
Do you have any other numbers that you can share with us as far as maybe meals or?
Oh, have I got numbers?
Why don't you hit the highlights there for us?
My staff is laughing because I'm a spreadsheet queen. We love spreadsheets. So we have served 27,014 boxes of food, and each of our boxes feeds family of 4. We have
These are all since January.
these are since January. This is year to date, end of July. And so adults, 24,492 meals that we have served. And we do a check mark when they come in. We don't take a whole lot of data. We take their first name. We ask them how many are in their family, and then we feed them. We have had 812 seniors, 418 vets, 768 pets. You'd be surprised. And then the children, 7,731 children. It comes up to about 64,031 households, and total meals served 37,171 meals.
Okay. Do you ask them at all where they're from?
We do. We ask them, are they residents of Highlands County? Do
Mhm.
they live here? And I have at the end of my list, the zip codes that they come from. We ask them for their zip codes. And so I can tell you how many zip codes were 33825, how many were 33843, 33870, 33872, 75. And those are the ones that we see most often.
Okay.
And we have other. And so I do have a list of those zip codes. We do track by zip codes.
Before you leave tonight, if you would let us make a copy of that, or just email it to the city at some point.
I'd
Or-
be happy to share.
Or
it
leave that
with you.
behind. That's worth.
Or I can email it to you.
Yeah, either way. I just like for all the council members to get those numbers if possible.
Absolutely.
Okay, any questions at this point for Hands for the Homeless?
I just have one question. That's a lot of people that you feed and congratulations and appreciate it. Are they all homeless or you don't track that part? These are just people that are in need of help and food
People,
and clothes.
our mission is feeding the homeless and hurting. A lot of the folks that we feed, they have homes. They
Okay.
come to us in cars. We do a mobile pantry twice a month and they come to us in cars. And we have a lot of families. We do deliveries to homes. We do deliveries to seniors. How many deliveries did we do last week?
Last week on Tuesday.
Yeah, sir, if we can get you to come up to the
Sorry.
microphone.
This is the chef, Jacob Lyons. He's our chef.
Just state your name again there for the record.
Yes, Jacob Lyons. My address is 2695 North
Just
Farm.
your organization, Hands for the Homeless.
Okay, I'm with it. Yeah, no, for example, tomorrow we have 313 meals going out into our community. 150 of those are walk-ups, the rest are delivery routes. We really focus on feeding those that are hurting through food insecurities. That's 1 in 6 children, 1 in 4 adults. A lot of that plays into economics, obviously. From experience, I've known I've been at Hands for Homeless for 2.5 years, and I know in that time frame, Avon Park has been the 4th poorest city in the state. I think that shifted recently to number 7. When you think about the state being huge, there's a lot of things that go into play with the education, and I just want to thank everybody for this opportunity to be here to help to bridge this gap and work together, because we see a lot of people that are hurting and a lot of people that are in need, and it just seems to just focus on the homeless people, which is our main focus, to be able to give them the things that they need. At the end of the day, we're just talking about human rights. So
Sure. Obviously, the object of this particular meeting is to talk about homeless in particular, but.
sure.
Yeah. So the delivery meals, are you delivering to homes or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then a couple of our drivers will take extra meals, and if they see somebody on the street that is homeless, that isn't able to get to our area for our meal time, because it's from 10:30 to noon, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and Saturdays, we have different organizations come in and do hot meals as well. So they will take and give to our homeless clients on the road as well.
So is it actually tracked what is going to homeless and what is going to deliveries and everything?
Yeah,
Okay. Because obviously that's kind of what we're trying to understand, right?
sure.
We want to know, okay, is the homeless population growing in Avon Park? We want to find out, are they from Highlands County? Are they transient from other counties? That's what we're trying to understand, to get us a clear picture of what's really going on in our community.
No, of course. I mean, there's a good handful, like Joy had said, like eight to 10 like steady that we see, but we also know there's other people that are homeless that only come every so often to get our resources, because there's other organizations that they have resources from as well. But we do have those numbers that Joy has on that spreadsheet
Okay.
for sure.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
And just 30,000 foot view, obviously you would say that the homeless population is growing? Is it increasing from, or is it about the same as it
It's
was?
the same as it was. I haven't seen any uptick in homelessness, other than the normal clients that I see on a regular basis that I talk to,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And most of, the clients that, just from me driving up and down Main Street, I see, organizations like yourself, a lot of, vehicles that are coming in there, right?
Yes.
And picking up meals. So the drive up customers, if you will,
Yeah.
are they homeless, or are they typically have?
To put this in a scope of things, people use homelessness by the people you see on Main Street. We also have a lot of families that live in cars that are technically homeless.
Right.
Like, so there's a lot of those as well. People staying in hotels that are homeless, that
Like staying at the Walmart
the
parking
Wal-
lots and
Yeah,
things you
Walmart
see?
parking lot. I know a lot of people stay at the Magnuson because they get weekly rates. And any hotel will give a weekly rate, like the O'Connor Lodge. So I know that there's a lot of our clients also that are homeless in that aspect, and not just a stereotypical what you see on Main Street.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm sure you guys probably don't necessarily get into the causation of why they would become homeless.
I mean,
We hear a lot of stories. We do part of in case management, part of is what are the resources that you're using? What brought you here? What brought you to our door? How can we help you? What is the need that you have? And so a lot of our volunteers ask those questions. We hear those stories. You can have two parents that are both working minimum wage jobs that have a car that can't afford the $1,800 that are being asked for rent, that had an apartment that a year or so ago was only $800 a month rent. Now it's $1,800 a month rent. And so they're living in a hotel room with their 3 children. And so it's a family living in what we consider homelessness. But they got there through no fault of their own. The rent was raised because the economy changed. Food became more expensive for them. They use food stamps to purchase what they can. And then at the end of the month, they don't have food stamp money anymore.
Yeah. And you guys don't have any actual housing, right?
We do not.
No.
Okay,
We feed you.
got it.
You come to us, we will feed you.
Okay, and
We
you
give you
said,
a shower.
you mentioned casework.
We have an office. We don't have a certified case manager, but we do. If they come in and they don't have an ID, we will help them get an ID. If they need a bus ticket home, we'll buy that bus ticket home. If
Mhm.
they need to get on a computer and do an application for something, we help with that. And we partner with our sister agencies all the time with, we'll call, Brenda, we call her constantly, their office constantly. I got a individual here that needs housing and we send them over there. There are ways that, I mean, we all do. We send them to Church Service Center because we focus mainly on the people that don't have a kitchen. We do pop tops in our food pantry. We do about 30 bags a day in our food pantry, and we do pop tots because they don't have a stove. We can't give them a can opener because tomorrow they won't have one.
Sure.
So we do pop tots. So if they need a cooking bag, we send them to Church Service Center because Church Service Center does things that they can cook. They do meat and they do different things. So we all kind of focus on feeding, and we all use the Heartland Food Bank for purchasing some of that food. And it's amazing. We have to do that because they charge us by the pound. And we couldn't afford what we do if we don't. But we write grants and try and work through how can we get them. There was a lady named Ruby Payne who did an entire focus, an entire study. Her life's work is on communities and homelessness. And her book is called Bridges Out of Poverty. And it talks about the different things that you can do and the ways that you can help someone get from one place to another. And that's what we try and do. We try and break that cycle of poverty. What are the resources that you have? What are the ones that you're using? What are the ones that you aren't recognizing? And getting every agency at the table at the same time. Because if you say, okay, you got to go to WIC, you got to go, okay, they go to WIC, but they don't have transportation. So how do they get there? They get there, they don't have their ID. They don't have any ID. They don't have a job. They don't have a way to get there. They get to WIC, they get back home. WIC is in Sebring. Okay, they've gotten what their resources from WIC, but then they have to go to Social Security. Again, it's a battle for a lot of our citizens. That is something that we struggle with. So case management, what we do by that is we try and solve those problems. We try and take them to Social Security. We try and get them that ID. We try and pay for a bus ticket if they need. We try and connect with family if they're mental health. We try and connect with family. Can we give them a bus ticket and send them home? What are some of the options that they have? That's what we do by case management. And we're hoping to build this new building to give us an education wing where we can sit down and teach them how to use a computer and give them some job skills.
Okay. Do you have any statistics as to how many are looking for bus tickets home or transportation home?
I'm just gonna throw a number, like it's literally maybe like 3 people a year that I've come in contact with.
Very
Yeah.
negligible.
Not a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not a lot.
Predominantly, where does your funding sources come from?
Mostly individual donations. We do a lot of begging. We do some grant writing.
And handling now? Is that who the sheriff was talking about?
They know us well.
Kidding.
We also write. We have United Way. We connect with some of the big organizations. That's how I started with Hands for the Homeless, was as a grant writer. And so those are some of the things that we look for. There are grants out there that are available. And so that's.
You don't have any idea what percentage of your revenue is grant funded versus private donation versus?
Actually, I do, but not with me.
Okay,
We list it. We list all the individuals. We've actually been down to Fort Myers and visited with St. Matthews because they have 7 stores. Our Treasure Chest store, which is one of our businesses in town, that really funds us. They do a bang up job, and every dollar that is spent in that store is used to purchase food or to sustain our agency. So the treasure chest is a gift, and
Sure.
it's very helpful. And all the clothing, it's 50 cents. Nice furniture. It's really clean. You want to come in there.
obviously, any of that information that you can share with the council, please do so.
Absolutely.
So,
Happy to.
anything else on behalf of Hands for the Homeless? Going once, going twice?
Foster.
I have one question. Do you know, is there still an organization of Meals on Wheels out there?
Yes.
Yeah, there.
I believe that there is. I know that we pick up their route on Thanksgiving, because they do it the week before. They don't actually do it on Thanksgiving, and yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
We had a question right behind you there, Barry. Name and address for the record.
Grant Foster, Highlands Radio Group, 3750 Highway 27 North in Sebring, Florida. I had a question about the 7,700 number. Is that 7,700 kids or 7,700 meals?
Children.
For point of reference, that's over half the entire population of the Highlands County school system. At last report, it was 11,000 and change. So that would put it north of 15,000 for half. So that's over half the kids in the Highlands County schools, if that number is accurate.
Well, some of the children, of course, come week after week. So these are
Okay.
total children that we have served. So when the parent walks in with the child and we're doing a meal, we count how many of you are here today. We count them.
So you don't necessarily know if they're the same individuals coming back or,
No, we don't count. We don't keep track of that.
got it. Okay, anything else? Questions for Hands for the Homeless?
Mayor, can I just add something on
Please.
Hands for the Homeless? Because Randy and I have heard him more, because he's in the street all the time, that they're the cause of a lot of the homeless here, along with the church service center. I've been up there, I think it's 3 times, and met with them, and what they told me, and it was pretty much true, and they kind of brought it up. They they serve 7,000 people, they got about 10 that are not the good ones trying to ruin it for everybody else. They're the ones they've called law enforcement on. We've as Randy would tell you, some of them, they wait around to get the meals, but they go in there and they take some couches and chairs that people threw away and they drag it, and we get called from some of the business owners, rightfully so, and Randy responds, they were setting up a camp. But I don't think they got their funding yet to get the fence up.
It's up.
Oh, it's up. Well, see,
Fence is up and cameras.
Randy was just gonna, but that'll be a big help, because they were going in and we thought they were dropping off stuff for them to sell and they were throwing it out, but people were just saying, oh, I can drop it off and drive. So I just want that. They're doing the work of the Lord. They're doing a great job. And I've been there 3 times talking to them, probably Jane more than that when I see her. But
She's on the phone.
it is just a few of them they're causing the problem for the other ones. So for those in here that say they're the problem, they're really not the problem. They're doing good. It's just the few that Randy deals with, they don't want to deal with the other, and that's why they call the sheriff's office on them.
We do have the fence up all the way around our building now. It's enclosed. It has made a world of difference for us. And we have cameras as well outside.
Ma'am, if you want to make comments from the audience, we'll have to get you to the microphone.
What, we need her name anyway for the record.
My name?
Yeah, we'll have to get you to the microphone so you can give your name and address there. Or just the organization.
Yeah, and please don't speak from the audience, because we need to keep track of this. It's just not,
My name is Marie Sandys. I live at 2770 Norris Drive in Avon Park. And I'm the manager for the Treasure Chest, which helps with the Hands for Homeless.
Thank you.
And we did put the fence. It made a lot of difference. Cameras, and we are building a drop-off box, because people, even though they have cameras, they still come there and steal. And I watch it from home on my phone. So we are making a drop-off box with a key, so they can't take anything. because we clothe the homeless with that once a month. They get a voucher. They come to my store and take showers. And, you know, I don't want anybody stealing what we can make to help people eat and feed people and take care of the community.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Behalf of Hands for the Homeless. Seeing none. Move on to Church Service Center.
Yes, sir.
You will.
I'm Pastor Tom Finneran, and we run up the Church Service Center right here in town, the old Yana concrete building. They're hopefully not the one they're demolishing soon. And let us know first if you don't mind. But to know it's all the buildings behind us where we're having the issues with the homeless people. Our job there is to work for God. We serve God first. The way that we serve God is by respecting our authority, which is the USDA government. In order for a person to be a client of ours, they have to be eligible. So we can only serve you. First of all, if you're a member, a resident of Highlands County, no one else, and that you are eligible, meaning that you're below the federal poverty line. So each person has to fill out an application or we don't service them. Except for the homeless people. Now, what that means is the homeless people will come to us and we service them, but we service them differently than we do the people that have residence, meaning they have a stove and they have a refrigerator and a freezer and a place to store their food. So we give them the foods that they can eat and the drinks, especially during these hot days. Our job also there is to give, besides giving free food, we give free clothes. We give free household goods. They have a house. We also help with the utility bills. So we're there to help people with their electricity, their water bill, their rent. Also, we will help, this is based on donations, pharmacy needs. Sometimes we'll have to put someone up in a hotel because it's an emergency situation. And that may mean a homeless person because sometimes during the weather, especially when it's really hot or when it's really cold, hopefully we can give a person a couple of days to get in there and shower and feel safe. And that's the biggest thing, is feeling safe to get through the night. It reminds me when I talk about what we do is for God. It reminds me of this 96-year-old retired pastor that I know. His name is Gene Carell, and I don't know if any of you know Gene, but he gets around in a walker and a cane sometimes if he's feeling really brave. And he was visiting people in jail and going to deliver food supplies to the widows up in the Holiness Campground area. And I said, Gene, you can't be doing that at your age. It's hard for you to get around on your own. And I said, why do you do that? And he said, because God tells me to do that. That's what it says in the Bible. And it reminds me of why we do that. And I know Randy brought up his legal aspects and there's moral aspects, and we can't separate those two. I think they have to be attached, and I think God demands that they're attached. And Matthew 25:31-46, what he says is that he got all the nations before him on the second coming of Jesus. And he separated the goats that are going to hell and the sheep that are going to heaven. And the goat said, but why are we going to hell? Because I prayed in your name. And he said, I never knew you. And he said, because I was hungry and you never fed me. And that's what we do there. We feed people that are hungry. I was without clothes and you never gave me anything to wear. And that's what we do there, what God says, because God tells us to do that in the Bible. And so we give them stuff to wear and everything's free. And they say, it says in the Bible that I was in jail and you never visited me. I forgot the part about I was thirsty. And boy, we've been going through a lot of water. Thank you. For that down at Heartland Food Bank. And especially Gatorade. And I was sick and you never visited me. And so we try to do everything that God says there. And it's tough because we have to be within the guidelines of USDA. But I always tell people we work for God first. And that's what we try to do each day that we go to work. And we have about 20 to 30 volunteers there, and it's just the most incredible opportunity to serve the Lord as we go through each day. And so thank you for having me, Mayor. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you for coming. Thank you
Yeah.
for your comments. Can you share any numbers as to how many people you serve, or
Well,
similar to the questions
Sure,
asked
sure.
of Hansford Homeless?
Last year, we serviced over 20,000, and this year it's been at least 1.5 times that with food. We service usually every time we're open, at least 100 people will come through, and you'll notice as you're going by the church service center, they'll usually be lined up the street, sometimes right to the main street, depending on how fast we're getting the food out. But every single person is income eligible for the food that they get. As far as the homeless people, we do keep statistics, we keep names, and what we do is we put check marks next to each time they come in, because they're usually the regulars, and they'll come over, especially, breakfast time, they're real hungry, and we have those Wawa sandwiches that are great, microwave 1 minute, and heat them up for them, and give them something to eat, and give them something to go on the way when they take off, and we'll give them to-go bag is what we call it. But as far as the numbers, we can get you the numbers, Mayor, as far as the homeless people, but they're mostly regulars. Every once in a while, we'll get a transient that's coming through from another state or another county. And because they're homeless, we're serving every person that comes in. No one leaves without food. And if they're there, regardless of where they're from, we'll give them the food that a homeless person can use, and wherever they are, whether it's in a hotel, in their car, or in the park. Yeah.
You mentioned that USDA stipulates the income level that they have
Yes,
to
sir.
be at. So how do you go about verifying any of that?
We don't, because we're not authorized to do that according to the government. We can't ask for any of that information. We have to base it on what they tell us to be true.
I see.
As well as, we can't share their names because of the privacy. We can't say these are our clients we can give numbers and we can give stats, but we can't give any names or.
I see.
Yeah.
So do you get your funding from the USDA, or?
We don't get funding from the USDA, but we do get food. So on every Monday, what they'll do is they'll come up to our organization with a big 18-wheeler, and they'll drop off pallets of food, and usually the agencies, the other food pantries in the area and the county will come to get their food in our parking lot on that day. As the funding comes from churches, comes from corporations, comes from individuals.
Those all private donation, basically.
Yes, sir.
It's not federal donation.
Yes, sir. Yeah, just all private. That's right.
Are there any grants involved in what you do?
Actually, we did get one grant from our angel here, Brenda. She really helped us out with a grant that came in, and she can tell you about that when it gets to her.
Sure.
But that definitely helped us. It was just very short-lived during the pandemic, during the crisis there, and no longer do we get it, but definitely Brenda supplies us with a lot of resources otherwise. Yeah.
Okay. Any questions for Church Services Center?
I just have one. You mentioned that it was the same 100 people that come to you pretty regularly. Do you have any, I don't want to call them success stories, but do you have any kind of data or any kind of information on how long these individuals are usually required to use your services? Or do you have any insight on additional services that these individuals need to become successful, other than you're providing food and clothing?
Right.
But do you ever speak to them about what is preventing them to get beyond that, where they no longer need your services?
Yeah, thank you for that question. It's a good question, because that's part of our intake process. And then we'll offer them the services, whatever it is, where they feel they're deficient, or we would suggest they're deficient. Otherwise, after that sign up period, unless they come to us with some kind of issue, they're on their own, and we just help them until they don't need any more help.
Do you find that pretty regularly occurring?
Every year they have to renew their application. So there's new standards, new federal poverty lines. And so every year they have to renew their application. So we get an opportunity to have that same conversation with them every year. Yeah.
Any other questions for Truce. Yes, sir. Just name and address for the record, please.
My name is Terrence Wills, 1901 Oaks Lane here in Avon Park.
Yes, sir.
For the pasture, we talk about what's morally and God. So my question is can you morally sit there and give that speech and say we have two separate guidelines and we give these people everything they want and morally know that they go down the street after that and use their hard-earned money to buy drugs.
Right.
They have
Yeah.
cell phones.
Yeah.
They're buying paraphernalia.
Right.
Where is the accountability to say you need to be either donating or pitching in as part of what you're getting?
Yeah.
Rather than spending it on what you're doing.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I know a lot of people say the same thing, sir. So thank you for saying that. But the only thing I can do as a pastor is I go back just like my mentor, the 96-year-old pastor. And he says it's because this is what God tells me. And God doesn't say in there, I was hungry and you didn't feed me. What he says at the end of all those words is he said, what you do to the least of your brethren, my brethren, you do unto me. And so when he says those words, every person that comes to us, sir, is representing Jesus. And we as a church service center, we cannot turn away any of the people that need food without asking them first, what other benefits are they experiencing or where else are they going? Yeah.
But your answer is what God wants you to do.
Yes, sir.
You said you separate that and do what's morally right first. So
Yes,
where
sir.
are your morals coming from to justify sending those people out into our community to buy these things and act the way they do?
Yeah.
May
Well,
I respond?
No.
Just when someone leaves us after getting a meal, we don't know where they're going or what they're spending their money on any more than we know what someone who's going to Walmart is doing with the money that they receive. I don't know what any of us do beyond when you come to me and you say that you need a meal, I give you a meal, but I don't know what you do going out into the community. And it's not up to me to judge that behavior or that action.
Correct.
What I'm doing is what God is telling us to do. And that is to be those hands and feet of Jesus, as he is saying. But I don't know that they're going out and buying drug paraphernalia. I don't know that they're going out into the community and being harmful. And a lot of the people that we see on a daily basis are just the sweetest things ever. And the stories that keep me doing what I'm doing are the second grade little boy who was putting half his lunch in his pocket to take home to his preschool brother, because if he didn't do that, that preschooler didn't have lunch that day. And so those are the stories that remind me, I don't know what his parents are doing with their money. I don't know what any of the others are doing. What I know is when that person steps in front of me and they say they need food, we give them food.
But again, you're lumping everybody into these 8 or 10 individuals that everybody is referring to that we see over and over and over. And
But
those
I
are the
don't know.
individuals.
I don't know if they're on drugs. I don't know if they're using.
yeah, we can't control them after they leave our center. We can't control what they do. Yeah.
Yep.
Even though we'd like to. Yeah.
Just give your name and organization again.
Jacob Lyons, Hands for Homeless. I respect this gentleman's opinion. But with that being said, we should be asking the questions of what we could do as a community to put things in place for people who are fighting addiction instead of shaming them for using their money to fight what their demons and what they have going on. We should figure out how to make this a solution. I see a lot of people on social media. I see a lot of people in the newspaper just writing continuous things about homelessness, and we don't know anybody's situation at the end of the day. I tell people all the time, you could be one flat tire away from needing a meal. You know what I mean? Tires are expensive. Things are astronomically high. And from a chef standpoint, we focus on using fresh ingredients and putting healthy food into our community. When there's 3 liquor stores, 8 fast food restaurants in a 3-mile radius, I have farms that partner. I have farms that donate. This gentleman here does beyond the call of duty to give us resources to be able to produce meals to nourish their mind, body, and soul. So I understand that we can't control what everybody does on a day-to-day basis. But I don't think it's all right to judge what they do with their funds and their demons in their life that they have going on. We're there to comfort them and feed them from the soul and maybe reach them in a different way. But I think the real question we should all be asking ourselves is how we can work together to give these people resources to fight their addiction and talk about mental health, because a lot of those things placate to each other. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate the fact that everybody's here that basically wants to feed the homeless and give them clothing and so on and so forth. And so I understand if you need to give them a hotel room, you give them a hotel room or you give them a place to stay. But why would you give somebody money?
We don't,
What would be the person?
We
person-
don't give
You
them
don't.
one. No, no,
So,
never.
no.
so other than the fact if you gave them food or clothing and they went out and sold it for money, that's
Yeah.
how they would buy drugs, but you're not giving
No.
anybody any money
No.
at all. Okay,
No.
that's the major
Yeah,
difference.
thank
Okay,
you, thank you for asking.
yeah, thank you for that answer.
Yes, sir.
That says a lot.
Just to be clear, people in the audience should not be answering the questions. Only someone with a microphone in front of their face should be answering questions. So,
We good?
yeah,
Thank you.
you're,
Very good.
you're good if you're standing by the microphone and you've already gave your name and address. Otherwise, that's enough.
You know, I think what angers people the most is when they see the homeless population leaving garbage. It makes the ones who actually do care and do want the help look bad. So you're gonna look at a sore thumb before you actually, find the problem. And also too, hold on just a minute. How do you differentiate between the homeless who actually want the help versus the addicted homeless that just choose to be homeless and just choose to live on the freebies?
May I respond? One of the things that we can't judge between the two. We offer the same help to both. And what they do with that information and what they do with that offer is not up to us at the end of the day. We offer the same opportunity, the same help. And it is frustrating as all get out. My staff gets so annoyed at the end of the day to have to go out and pick up the garbage, to have to clean up, and having that fence out there has been a godsend. We don't have nearly the garbage and things out there we used to, but it's a constant battle. And it's an education thing as well. And when you see one, do one, teach one. And so we're working on constantly. There are a lot of people that walk in our door that we go, oh boy, what am I going to do with this one? But that is part of the challenge of every person is different and every need and every resource is different. And we offer the same resource and the same solution to each of them. What they do with that, we can't, once the offer is made and once the help is there, we have no.
Okay, but what if you have a family of 4 or 5 who are absolutely able to buy their groceries? They have no problems paying their bills, living comfortably.
How do I know that?
No.
Okay.
I'm saying you give food out to them.
Yeah.
And you get all the way to the end of the line and now you have a homeless family that can't get that because the family that was able to provide for themselves took it. How do you differentiate? You can't differentiate between the two, right?
We don't differentiate between the two. However, if you're willing to sit in a hot car for 4 hours before we give you a box of food, we pretty much figure you're going to need that food. And when we do the mobile pantry, they start lining up at 6 o'clock in the morning. We don't start serving or putting boxes in that car until 9:30, 10 o'clock when our truck empties. So by the time they've been sitting since 5 o'clock in the morning, we figure if they're still in that line and we go through the line and we ask them what they need and they tell us how many family members, we put 1 box in that car for them for a family of 4. We figure if you've been sitting for 4 hours in that hot Florida sun, you probably needed that food. And the others, it takes something to walk up to the door to ask for that meal. You have to be able to walk in that door and ask for the meal. And the people that don't necessarily need that, there's going to be that hesitation to do that because there's shame involved. And
Do you encourage them? Do you encourage them to go into the community and not leave their garbage behind?
Oh,
Do you-
absolutely.
Yeah.
And if we see it, hey, come back here. You see what you did? Come on, let's pick up. We talk to them all the time and we educate continually. Because sometimes we think, well, maybe they don't know. Maybe they sitting outside our offices, sometimes it's a mess and they're only allowed to be there an hour. And if we're not serving you, you need to go. You can't just sit here. You need to go and you need to take your trash with you. And I'm kind of anal about things like that. So we have that constant conversation, but you have to build trust with them first. They have to trust you. They have to know you because otherwise you're part of what they don't want to deal with. They're going to ignore you. But if you fed them, if you've been that person that's been there for them, if you talk about their children, if you know who their grandparents are, if you know what their needs are, they're going to start trusting you. They're going to start listening. And that's what we're trying to do is build that trust. And we have done that over the last 6 years by feeding them. We're building that trust so that we can do some education and we can move them out. And we do have success stories. We have families. We do a program called Home Sweet Home that when someone gets off the street, when they've been on the street, they get into a home, we do furniture for them, we do household goods for them, and we celebrate for them. So we do those household home for homes, and I've probably done 3 in the last 3 months. So we do see some success stories. They're few and far between, but we see some. It makes a difference.
Thank you.
That's the biggest complaint that I always hear is usually the clothes. The clothes always get left behind. My building is just right across the street from Church Services Center. I pick up a dumpster every week, from people leaving bags because the area right where the services are given, it disperses slowly out from there, but it's centered closer around those places. And that is predominantly the issue because, the person goes, usually it's a homeless person that's going to leave the stuff behind, right? If somebody has a vehicle, they can carry all the stuff. It's not a burden, right?
Right.
But if you're having to walk out and you're walking out with, a few bags of stuff, okay, it's 95 degrees outside. It's hot. I walk 300 yards. I'm tired, heck with this. I'm just going to put the stuff down, take what I need and keep going, right? So what that ends up breeding is now, code enforcement has to go up and pick up the stuff. So now we're expending tax dollars to go pick up these bags.
Right.
The property owners, there'll be a cubby somewhere behind the building or in between buildings or something that all of a sudden just boom, overnight, there's, 15 bags of stuff there. That's the type of stuff that really, really irritates the community. So
Understood.
if I had one piece of advice to all these organizations is stop with the clothes or somehow figure out a way to only give enough that they can wear because the bags of clothes are ending up all over the town. And that is probably 95% of the complaints are from those clothes. Usually the food, particularly if they like the food, they scarf it down. They want that, they're willing to take the food with them far more than they're willing to take the clothes with them. So
We do 6 pieces of clothing, a pair of shoes and a belt a month.
well, somebody's taking the clothes from somebody else then because there's bags and bags of it. So
Understood.
yeah. Anyway, yes, sir.
Taking deep breaths. Bob McNeely, Executive Director of the Heartland Food Bank.
Yes.
My organization supplies about 80-90% of the food for all of Highlands County, including this city.
Okay.
First of all, I'd like to say that homelessness is our failing, not theirs. This is.
I strongly disagree with that. But
if I can deluge you with statistics, it will mind boggle you.
I would love to have that conversation with you.
I work with a national organization, the leading organization in the world that, Feeding America, and everything that we believe about the homelessness is, I would say, about 90% wrong. Most of the people start their drug use when they're homeless because of the despair that they're feeling. Most of the people have their mental health issues when they're living on the street with no human contact. So these are people that are constantly being put down by the society. And there is a point, that they don't care. And then there's a point where they don't know how to care anymore. Their mental illness reaches a level that you don't know why they wouldn't commit suicide. I deal with this every day. I just started a new program in Sebring, and the second week, we already had 70 homeless people show up for food. Okay, when they're not here in Avon Park, they're in Sebring. Right now, they live across the street from me in 3 different places. There's more than 100. We have a group of more than 100 veterans that live in camps. Now, they don't call themselves homeless, but they still need help in their services. This is what I deal with every day. Okay, I moved here to do this. I was on the beach in Fort Lauderdale for 30 years, and I said, I want to run a food bank, and I love Sebring. I have property in Lake Placid, Sebring area. I want to come here, live the simple life. Every day of my life is a massive depression. I mean, we served 1 million meals in this county last year. Okay, so there's a lot of issues. And when it comes to why people are homeless, 40% increase in rent, 30% increase in food costs. The average senior, we serve about 10,000 seniors in this county. These people are living in their homes, living in their cars, living in hotel rooms. These people don't choose to become homeless. They're thrust into it by our lack of good governance in this country. It's disgusting. These people are suffering, and they're human beings. Regardless of how you feel about the Bible or God or your mission in life, they're human beings. It's every day of my life.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I was on the list. I was late to the party, but I just.
Well, you're on the list now.
This kills me, man. It really does.
I have a couple questions for you, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
So you're the source of a lot of this food. Where is this food coming from?
So I'm partnered with Feeding Tampa Bay.
Okay.
So I'm what's called an RDO, Regional Distribution Organization. So people used to have to drive to Tampa or Lakeland to get food for this area. So we started our organization and we partnered with them. So we get food through their contracts with Publix, Winn-Dixie, Walmart, Aldi's. So we pick up
So
food
mainly
3 times a week.
overstock food, you're saying?
This overstock, it's stuff that they can no longer keep on the shelves. It is good and it is in date. I want everybody to know, we're not giving people garbage. We sift through boxes and boxes of stuff to make sure what we give them is good, healthy food. We also get food from Feeding Tampa Bay. My truck's going out tomorrow. They've been hurting. I get less and less. My warehouse has been empty. It's killing me. Every day I just tried to get 1 box for a friend of mine over here, for a friend of his, and I couldn't even fill the box for 1 family on my shelves right now. So it's devastating what we're going through right now. And
Do you have any state or federal funding?
I do not. This is something that I've been working on. I've been working with Senator Grahl and Representative Tuck, the government, and I know there's always statutory rules. I learned a lot of that during Leadership Highlands and from that prohibit people from the government from paying for food. They figure, oh, we have SNAP, we do this, we do that. Well, most of the people that we service do not qualify because yes, it's people making $46,000 a year for a family of 4. Well, after you paid your $24,000 in rent and your little bit of electric bill and maybe some gas for your car, you're broke. This is who we serve. Those people will become homeless. And the organizations, because there's no government funding or government regulation, you know, they mentioned Safari Inn, there's New Testament mission, and they're not regulated, so they can only help a few people. And they have their own rules, but they're not able to do so much. They do their best. But yeah, they deal with homelessness. They deal with drug addiction. There's a lot of organizations, I see a few here that try to do the same thing, but we're all doing this independently. We're all trying to figure it out. I mean, when I came in, my organization was seemingly a minor player, but I got big ideas. Like I said, I work with 44 agencies throughout this county. I know what's happening in this county.
Okay.
When it comes to food, finances, homelessness, I got the numbers, the pressings, the kids that I serve, the people that are on the street everywhere. They just keep getting moved. And like I said, I know the sheriff mentioned, you know, you can only do what you're allowed to do, but we just move them. They'll be back. You think you're down a little bit low right now? Well, we're gonna move a few more in Sebring and they're gonna end up back here. You know, I mean, I have people taking showers in my backyard at the food bank. A whole group of them. I have people charging their phones and it cost me a couple of bucks. What can you do? I mean, I do have to keep it under control because safety issues, like you said, and all that, I understand. So, but like I said, this is the children, you know, I know Barry Foster had asked about the 7,000. Well, I can tell you, we're a county where 100% of all students receive breakfast and lunch, or they're eligible. It's because more than 80% of them are in that poverty level. So at the end of May, when school was up, all those kids no longer got breakfast and lunch. When the COVID funding went out at the end of May, all those parents who needed that money to buy food, now they have to buy breakfast and lunch and dinner with no money. I had so many calls, people yelling at me, how am I going to feed my children?
Do you have any paid staff?
Yeah, there's 5 of us.
Where does that money come from?
Mostly local funding. Most of my funding truthfully comes from snowbirds. I do write some grants.
Donations, you're saying?
Donations, yeah.
And the grants are to private organizations, or are they to state or federal?
I'm trying the state right now. Federal, I won't be able to get, but I do get money from Publix Foundation, Duncan Charitable Foundation, Florida's Natural. So there's certain ones, but you know, for us to be effective, I need another $150,000, $200,000. You know, one of the biggest trends in food banking is that they become the social organization for the area. They have the mobile pantries, they have the food, they have the doctors on site, they have all these other services because it's not a statutory thing, we don't get the funding. So it's all good people trying to do it on their own. The only thing I can do here is I partner with my good people to do those things under an umbrella. But that also makes funding difficult because it's not my program.
Okay.
But without me, actually, when Jacob first started, I'd been here for about 6 months and they used to get rid of all the produce for some reason. They didn't know what to do with it. And I said, no, we're keeping the produce. And the first person I called was Jacob. So we started off with a couple of families and now thousands of meals.
Yep. Okay. So, I mean, have you seen success stories of people climbing out of poverty?
No, it's been getting worse.
So what do you think would happen if you stop handing out food entirely? Just cold turkey.
You would have.
Do you think people would starve to death, or do you think they would find a way?
I think some would starve to death. I think you'd have a bigger criminal problem in this area than you could deal with.
Because you see the obvious, the obvious flip side to the coin, right? So all this food that's being given out for free is not being bought at your local market, right? It's not being bought, even at your Walmart, your Publix, or any street vendor, right? So you're talking about 80% of people being below the poverty line. If we're going to survive as a country, those people have to come out of poverty. That's the only way that we ever have a future.
Absolutely.
Because everyone can't get free food because the food has to come from somewhere. It has to be paid for by someone. So there's an ever dwindling population of people that are basically burdening, all these bills for those that are not making their own way. So you can see how that is a losing proposition.
Right. And that's why I'm saying that as a group and as getting government involved, especially at our level, if we don't find a way to help these people, I mean, it's unfortunate that there's 5 counties, us, Hardy, Okeechobee, Glades, DeSoto. So, I mean, we're agricultural. We are the poorest and counties that serve the most through our food banks. It's ironic that the people, we grow the food for the state.
We're the poorest,
and, and nobody can go and buy any.
Right.
So, and that's the hardest part, is that how are we going to, bring the jobs in? But we need the education. Somebody will ask me, well, the person doesn't know how to fill out their form to get their social security card. I mean, when my father had Alzheimer's, I went bankrupt taking care of him. I didn't know how to go to an office and say, hey, and I needed some food for my dad or something. I didn't know what to do. Never done it in my life. Never thought I'd had to. So this is the issue is as a community, we have to come together and find some way to say, hey, homelessness isn't the problem. There's an economic thing going on here that we have to figure out. And it's not easy. You know, how do we bring a corporation that's going to build, bring 10,000 jobs? And some people like at the one meeting, somebody said, oh, we have 52 jobs in the county offices. Well, not everybody's capable of doing those jobs. And like we're saying, a lot of the people that are getting help from us have jobs. So, there's got to be a mix. And that's the hardest part. And I think that's why we're all coming here together to say, how can we collectively as a community say, how can we help build these people up? There is very little housing here.
Yeah.
And that's the difficulty is it's not like you can all just write a check and say, let's build a big apartment community and give everybody a bunch of jobs doing something. That is the hard part of it, but it is our responsibility.
Okay. So would you agree that, funding at all levels for homelessness for lower income has gone up over the years, right? It's definitely not going down.
But unfortunately, the economy has, in the last Feeding America did a study and they did numbers through 2021 to show how poorly we're doing as a nation and taking care of our poor. Those numbers are obsolete by 20, 30, 40% 2 years later. Because I check against, again, this is my life. I sit there and I look at federal statistics. I got state statistics, not some dude on Facebook or anything. I'm looking at federal and state published statistics, and the numbers have, even though we were getting more funding, the need has grown because we're not serving poor people anymore. It's not a poor people. This is a regular person that said, hey, I got a great job. I went to college. I make 50 grand a year. I live by myself and I can't afford to live. I had a guy who worked for a demolition company and kid, 28 years old, working his butt off in the hot sun. He said, I can't find a place to live. $1,600 a month, plus the other expenses. And he's making $30,000, $40,000 a single kid. And he's like, I can't find a place. So again, these aren't problems that we can just wave a magic wand, but this is what we need to be thinking. How do we grow the community in a way that will help people? I might get calls at least weekly. Somebody said, I moved down here from, Orlando and I don't have a place to live and I don't have any food. And my first thing is just like you're probably thinking right now, why? How did you do it? Why'd you come here? Well, because they thought this was a cheaper place for them to live, or maybe they had a cousin who was going to put them up that didn't. And, there's the myriad of reasons.
They made a bad decision.
Yeah, people make bad decisions. I think we've all done those in our lives. But unfortunately, it does put them in a critical position. But can I send them someplace to say, here's some services that will either help you get a bus and go back, or here's a place to live with food? I can't. I mean, it's a very complex problem, and we're trying to solve this, and no one's been able to solve this. I mean, in California, they put everybody into these nice structured homes and nobody wants to live there.
Sure.
It's not the same. And
that's exactly right. I mean, California is the extreme example of where
Right.
we're going here. California spends more per homeless per capita than any other state by, probably a factor of 4 or 5.
Right.
But yet their homeless problem grows ever more. So it clearly tells you that spending more money on the problem is not going to work. We have to do something
Right.
different.
There's
That's
got to
kind
be
of,
a base, but then when I came here in December, I looked at a place that was selling for $85,000 and I said, well, let me rent and to just decide where I feel comfortable.
Sure.
By March, when I was going to buy, that property was $120,000.
why do you suppose that is? Could it be because of the unprecedented amount of money that got printed? Because of the inflation rate that's higher than we've seen in 100
yes.
years?
I was going to buy a house And then the interest rates went up again. And my sister said, well, you can afford it. And I said, why should I? Why should I pay an extra $200 a month for nothing? So
Sure.
yeah, trust me, we're all getting nailed with these things. But unfortunately, some people get hit so hard that, you know, I believe that's what community is about. We got to find some way to help them. And so I'm not offering a clear solution. We are all trying to work together. Like I said, I work with a lot of agencies, and I'm always amazed at the creative ways that each group comes up.
Sure.
With trying to help single mothers. I have an 85-year-old woman, Wendy, who volunteers with me every day. Like it's her job, that helps at the women's shelter and helps with other homeless people. And unfortunately, she hurt her back and she's home. I feel, pray for Wendy, everybody.
Okay.
But,
Okay.
but we're all trying. But I think that the goal of this should be, how can we get together as a group and say, what kind of work can we get these people? Is there some form of housing that's in a commercial area that we're allowed to use even as a temporary shelter? I mean, I've seen it happen. I lived in Hollywood, sat right on the beach, and they had the Homeless Voice, and they had this great place, and they would panhandle. They had to wear shirts, and it was almost like a job, and everybody in the city accepted it. And the minute somebody could tear that building down and displace them, they did. And actually, one of the people that I saw that was working for them, I said, I used to live in West Palm Beach. And I drove down there and I said, hey, I remember you. What are you doing here? And he said, oh, they bust us down here because there's no poor people in Palm Beach County. So I've seen it all. I've been doing this a long time.
Okay.
But all I can say is what we need in our community is, as you know, I've been trying to work with everybody as a partner and bring us all together, you know, maybe do a database where we know when there's somebody going to 3 different places, because I've shut that down quite a few times.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think that
we do with the resources we have, we do try
sure
to eliminate those overlaps and things of that. And we have a place in Manor Ministries, and there was a bus from Avon Park. And she says, what do I do? I said, tell them to go back to Avon Park. Because they were, I call them professionals, but that's about 5, not even 10%.
Sure.
Overall in the food banking industry, it's about 10% is of what you might consider improper or fraud. It's a very small percent.
Yep.
But we got to, so we're focused on that 90. Okay. Best we can.
Unfortunately, I mean, according to what you said, is the success rate is extremely low at these people ever regaining self-reliance. That is what has to change. So,
Yes.
and that's what, I mean, I think that any government or any private industry would be more than happy to give any amount of money if there was a successful plan that could see that even greater than 50% of the people involved were getting permanent help, right?
Right.
But you feed a man for a day, you fed him for a day. You teach a man to fish, feed him for a lifetime. So we need a longer term solution, and just simply handing out food or handing out housing, according to what everyone here is saying, isn't doing us much good.
Because we need the other side. We need your side to say, what is it that we can do? Now we can keep them going, because I use that same analogy. We all do, but I say, yeah, while you're teaching them to fish, you're going to have to give them a fishing pole, give them a little bait and maybe a little food to carry on until they catch some fish. And I would love that to be the end. I would love them to say, okay, we taught you, we put our effort into you, and we have a success.
Yeah.
The only problem is when we do have a success and rents go from 800 to 1,600.
Yeah. Tell your government to stop spending money they don't have, and it'll stop doing that.
Stop
I
raising
promise.
the interest rates and saying that there's no inflation when they're causing it. I know.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, I think as a group, we're looking for how can we all get together and say, we'll do our part, but we need the next part so that we can stop
Sure.
doing what we do. Because my job is always to put myself out of business. I'd love to.
You've been very patient with the questions. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Thank you. All right. Up next on the list, we have Heartland Coalition for the Homeless. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you walk up there. Yes, ma'am. Name and address for the record.
Karen Wigan, 71 East Thomas Street,
Yes, ma'am.
Avon Park. So I agree about what you said. a lot of very good points. I feel in this room that there are people who think the homeless shouldn't even be here and that there's, if they just get off their butts and work, then they could be just like all of us. Well, I'm here to tell you, I'm just like all of us and I'm 2 or 3 paychecks away from being homeless.
As-
Same story as this guy. Moved to Avon Park, great, wonderful. Paying my rent, trying to figure out where do I want to live? And basically the economy blew up. Economy blew up. All of a sudden, everything goes up. Got a great job, get a 2-3% raise, and everything goes up by 40, 50, 60%.
Right.
I had money in the bank that I was ready and qualified to buy a house. Can't buy a house, but guess what? All those people that rent their houses, and 2 years ago, you could get an $800 house and now they've doubled it. And there's no way to control any of that. That's part of the problem. People are greedy and they are trying, there's no regulation on how they can lure people in and get them to pay as much as they can. They end up having 2 or 3 families in there who end up having to, join their money together. Then they don't, guess what you got? As soon as they can't pay their rent, you got 2 or 3 families now who are displaced because they couldn't afford to get their own house on the day. I agree with what you said in regard to, it takes a village, but it definitely takes the leaders. We need to be able to look to our community. I mean, I work right on Main Street. I see them every single day. I've given people clothes. I've taken them food outside. Does that help? No. Does it give me a warm fuzzy for about a half a minute? Yeah, but it's not going anywhere. So unless there's, in my opinion, some sort of a committee that really cares, that's gonna say, how can we bring, what are the types of jobs that we could bring in, companies that we could bring in, land that's going to waste, buildings that are on your tax roll that you can't get rid of, that are just costing everybody money. Take this committee, put them together and say, there's some direction. Jobs, community, existing employers that could do job fairs for lower level jobs so they can qualify people and bring them in. It can't just take these people here to police them and feed them and to say that they're leaving garbage everywhere. You know what? Half the people that leave the garbage are the people who have money. I mean, okay, clothes is okay. I got the point about the bags of clothes, but guess what? The people who have the money are the most careless and disrespectful of your city. So I sort of feel a little bit upset about some of those things that were being said by these people are trashy. Well, you're right. They got no place to put their stuff. Could they walk over there and put it in the trash? Yep. But you know how many people I walk behind, especially after some of the events and things like that. It's not a homeless problem. It's an opportunity problem. People don't have opportunities to get up in the morning and to go to work, even if it's the most menial or small enough job. I have to say some type of a rent control would be great. Or be able to take some of these broken down buildings and renovate them into places where you can have mini homes or, 1-bedroom efficiencies, things like that. I live in a house that I was paying $800 for, and now we're paying $1,600. Like I said, it's a real thing. Your people who are making minimum wage today are your homeless of tomorrow. They truly are, because the way things are going, if the city doesn't, and I think it's great that we went from 4 to 7 on the lowest poverty levels. What that probably means is there's just 2 or 3 more cities that are having worse problems than we are. I can't say that means we went up. I think it means other people went down. And until the people in the room who want to volunteer and the people who care and ability to make decisions, put together some committees that can make these decisions, come up with the ideas, draw up a plan, just like you said, and then bring in the communities. Sebring has tons of volunteer programs. We don't have so many over here. I would love to see us bring some of those programs over here, like the Career Center way down there by, where is it? By the watering hole. That big career center down there. People can walk in, use a computer, talk to somebody about getting a job. Those things, why can't we get something like that down here? Why do you have to go almost all the way to Lake Placid to go to the Career Center? There's a lot of things that we could be doing. Does take a plan. You're gonna get lots of voices like us that are gonna come with lots of big hearts,
Sure.
but you gotta put the word out and you gotta say, folks, we're all concerned. We need everybody, not just with the big hearts and let these people feed the people. Let's get the other people with the motivation and the know-how and the business planning and the project management processes who can talk to businesses. Bring some people here, fill up these buildings, fix the parking in downtown Avon Park so that the businesses can thrive, and use these abandoned houses all over the place as smaller versions of that. You know, there's abandoned houses up and down every single road.
Okay.
So, I mean, there are things like I said, a committee that could be like targeting this idea and not just standing up here listening to all of our woes and how do we do this? Well, we can't just keep feeding them, give them a fishing pole. Okay. I mean, I loved it. It was good. A little long, but I would even volunteer to do that. I would volunteer to be on your committee.
Okay.
So you know where to find me.
Got it.
That's all I have.
I have a question for you, please.
Yes.
Actually, I got a couple questions that maybe other people can answer too. I've heard a couple of things between you and a gentleman and others recently. One, how do you rent a home that goes from $800 to $1,600 a month? How did that happen?
All you gotta do is pay your bills and your landlord comes up and says, well, now I'm raising it from 800 to 1,000. 3 months later, 1,000 to 1,200. And what are you gonna do?
Is that because his costs have gone up too?
No, it's because they're all greedy.
Okay.
You
Okay.
touch anything in Avon Park under $1,000, and I guarantee you it's roach ridden, and you got one bedroom, and you might have to share a bathroom.
Okay, and now the other thing about jobs, the gentleman just said that there were people making $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year. So they have jobs, but they can't afford a place to live. So if we have jobs that are out there now, which I believe that we do, either through the Career Source Center or through other fast food things, you're probably not even gonna make $30,000 a year. So you're still not gonna be able to rent a home. So maybe,
Income housing has to be brought here.
so that's another major problem then is low income housing
Absolutely.
or affordable housing. Okay,
Absolutely.
all right.
Affordable. And reuse what you have. Or, you know, I mean, I'm in the building industry. There are people building out of recycled bottles, building sturdy homes that can be anchored down like a mobile home.
You say you're in the building industry?
You're trying to be funny. I work at Colin Cobb Engineering.
You said it.
know.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay. I have met you before.
I know. But yes, there's all kinds of solutions. It just takes everybody going in the right direction and, you know, lots of great ideas, but then, you know, take out the parts where you have people making excuses. You're never going to find everybody who wants a job. It's not, you know, you're never going to make a miracle. What you can do is offer to the people that really want it to get it. Those other people, you're never going to make homeless zero. But you could take those people who are, especially the people right on the line. And I wasn't kidding when I said I could be homeless in 2 months. If I lost my job right there, there's not another job around here that I can get making what I make right now. I'm out of here. Pack up my stuff and leave all the bags of clothes on the side of the road. Because I mean, it's that scary. It is that scary, even for all of us here.
Sure.
And it would be nice to know that if I do become homeless, there are programs like the Career Center that's around the corner. You know, that can help me print my resume or write a resume or look up some jobs. And it's not that the jobs aren't out there. It's the people are not prepared, confident, or willing or maybe
Willing.
they don't have enough clothes to go, you know. They've got those two pairs of clothes because they only had $1. So
Yeah, the jobless shortage, or excuse me, the labor shortage has never been higher in this country.
I
It
know.
has been the last 12 months.
That's
So
why we gotta teach them how.
that tells you that more people don't want to work. That is what that statistic means.
Mhm.
So that's,
I have to respectfully disagree with your comment about people being greedy. Because we all saw an influx in our homeowners insurance. We've all seen an increase in our property taxes.
I know that.
So I'm positive the homeowner's not going to absorb all that cost for a renter.
Well, and I'm not saying that that's always the case. I'm saying, you know, you have people who are raising it as a need. You have people who are raising it because if you look on Indeed, or if you look on like apartments for rent and all of these things, they think that they can get that much. And there's a tiny little house down the road that's practically falling down. I went up and said, "Oh, how much do you guys want for this?" $1,000. There's holes in the walls. There's nobody regulating anything. Well, how do you think you can get $1,000 out of people? It's not a regulated process.
if nobody
They can
pays
do
it,
anything
they
they
won't be
want
able to
to.
get it. That's
So,
sooner or later, the people quit paying. The market goes to whatever people are willing to pay. But just so you know, just so everyone knows, a rental rate is derived by the replacement cost plus the amount of interest it takes to acquire that property, plus fees, you arrive at a certain number. So that's how that works. That's how it works all around the world.
that's how it works, but that doesn't mean that each individual person can't choose what they want to get out of their rent.
Sure.
So that's what they do if they want to cover their costs, but if these people are looking to make money.
Sure.
Everybody thinks the prices, like you said. I tried to buy a house that was $115,000, and then a year later, it's almost $200,000. So I
Yep.
wish I'd have gotten that big a raise.
Sure.
Anyways, thank you for listening. Sorry if I was long-winded.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Nancy Fisk. I live at 603 South Hart Avenue in Avon Park. And I help to manage the Depot Museum on Museum Avenue. And I could tell you a whole litany of things about homeless. In fact, when I came by to get here today, the lady who lives in her large white vehicle was charging her battery thing in front of our museum again. I know. So we're going to have to turn the power off again. But that's really not what I want to talk about. I think that housing is definitely a serious issue here. And just having the city or the county build low-income housing is not really going to solve the problem. There are programs out there like Habitat for Humanity that require sweat equity when someone gets a home. And low-income housing has to have an element of renter responsibility for caring for the property, or something like that for it to work. Because unfortunately, a lot of times, low-income housing ends up getting renters who have never owned a home and who don't understand all the things that are required, like maintenance and just how to care for a property. And if their landscaping and other services are provided and they don't have to do that, like those of us who live in an individual home and have to maintain our own yards, if those things aren't required of people, they don't really know how to care for it or haven't had that experience. But if there is low income housing available where people have to take an responsibility for caring for it as part of what they would have to pay for rent, instead of that, they would have to work toward maintaining it. I think we'd all be a lot happier with the residents who, people who would actually rent those places. I would not want to be a landlord today because people, there are many people who don't really care for someone else's property like they should. But if they have a responsibility for caring for it, I think would make a big difference.
Right.
And part of the problem, which I don't think is going to be solved quickly at all, is there needs to be a complete overhaul of our welfare system. Because right now, many people have to choose. They either have to, they cannot work at an entry-level job, even with 2 incomes in the home, and support their family. And if they do have a job and they're earning something, then they're not eligible for other services. Some people who could work and would be willing to work if they just had some help in certain areas. And just getting food is not enough. There are, the power bills are outrageous, and we all have to pay those things, those of us who are maintaining our homes. But if people could get help, temporary help to solve certain problems, they could work at an entry-level job and then work their way up. But right now, people have to either choose to work or to stay home and get benefits. And that's not a good system. It doesn't encourage self-respect or anything. So if we could come up with a way to provide housing where people had to contribute something toward it, as far as sweat equity, I think it would go a long way in solving our housing. But it's not going to happen overnight. But there are programs out there that have a model, and Habitat for Humanity is one of them.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. Yes, ma'am. Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Anastasia Fuscher, and I'll give you my home address rather than the work. So 416 South Angela Lake Road, Avon Park. But I'm here as a business owner, so a different viewpoint than the majority that we've heard from. And I think we can all agree and say that we all have a heart in this room. It's not that we don't have a heart, but there is another side, another perspective. And so I hope you guys can just bear with me as we share it. I'm with South Florida State College Foundation. We own the Hotel Jacaranda. We have poured a lot of our heart and soul into that building to continue it to be a living, breathing building. And
Anastasia, if you could address the board. So
Sorry.
all comments are supposed to be coming.
I'm sorry, this is my first one. So anyways, no, where was I? Yes, so we've poured a lot of our resources into it, our heart and soul, to keep it a living and breathing building, which it is. We have several tenants in our building, and we also have hotel guests from out of town that come here to stay. And we also house about 70 students for South Florida State College. And we have an issue. I'm going to use the word challenge. I liked Miss Joy. Use the word challenge rather than a problem. It is a challenge. We have homeless individuals or individuals that are in need that harass our tenants to the point of stalking. Charges have been made, arrests have been made, and we're very grateful for the Sheriff's Department for helping us with that. And even if it didn't lead to an arrest, they come and help them understand, you need to leave the premises and things like that. So we have that all the way where they have, touched one of our tenants on the shoulder and followed them all the way into our building. So that's an issue. That's a safety issue, not only for our tenants, but for those 18-year-old girls that moved in on July 31st, where I had to look at their parents and say, this is going to be a safe place for your daughter to live. So I just want you to see the other side. And I know that's probably it's not all of them. And I think that's been shown tonight. It's been an educational moment for me as well to be here and to hear all of this. And but I want you to know that there is that other side, that safety concern. I mean, they relieve themselves in our potted plants on the front stoop. So it's not a pretty situation for us all the time. There's trash everywhere, overflowing. We have the bags. Down the alleyway of CenturyLink, the drug deals that have gone down there. And again, we have students 18 years old, their first time out from mom and dad, close to that. And so it's a safety aspect for us. And we're a business. We want to try and keep growing downtown Avon Park, which I think is all what we're trying to do, including helping those in need. We're trying to help Avon Park. And the young lady here just mentioned, bring those businesses downtown. And we have the chamber, we have the city, people in our county trying to bring businesses here. But then when there's a safety aspect or people don't want to come downtown because they're sleeping around, it's a double-edged sword, I know. So trying to find that solution to that challenge. And I think that's how I understood this meeting was going to be. Everyone gets to share their points and views, share their statistics, and then everyone says, you go make it happen. Well, I think it's got to be, like you said, a committee, and someone heads that up, but put that plan together. These groups that are with and helping them, put that plan together, bring it to that committee, so then we can go forward and try to get the grants that I think you spoke about, maybe Mr. Burr, when you were talking, could be grants out there to build then a shelter, to then get that group together, to do the committee, to help them with the, getting their applications, getting their IDs, things like that. So it's all in one center, in one place for them to help them grow and become better. But you also have to understand, if we're going to try to build downtown Avon Park as well, that's a challenge for us as business owners and a safety aspect for our students and our tenants. And, we need help on all aspects. So it's on both sides. It is a double-edged sword. And I was sitting back there trying to listen and figure out how I was going to approach this, because I know it could come across from a different viewpoint. But again, we all have hearts. But yesterday I was in church, and what our pastor was talking about was, don't go out there and gossip was the basic message. Don't go out and gossip if you're not part of the problem or part of the solution. So, but we're not here to just start throwing everything around. We have to start doing and acting with something. So I appreciate everyone sharing. It's a learning opportunity for us. But I do just want to share that with you, that other aspect. I mean, and it's not every single one of them. And we know people fall on hard times. We just had a guest speaker with us last week. We started with our faculty and staff came back, and we had a guest speaker come in, and he was homeless in downtown Pittsburgh, I believe Pittsburgh, for 7 years. And he was dumpster diving, eating out of the dumpster. He got spit on, and he was using drugs. And when that lady spit on him outside the Ritz-Carlton, that's when he had that turning point. And someone reached out and helped him. Somebody gave him food, clothing, and took him into his local state college to start getting his degree. And now he is an international speaker trying to make that difference and that change for people. So you need the helping hands to get the people to the next step. We just need to put that plan in place. But you also have to understand, in order to bring the businesses in downtown, in order to grow downtown Avon Park, and what you all have tried to accomplish, just starting with the parking issue, but also what other businesses can we bring down here? You have to make it a place that people want to come and support those businesses, and a clean, safe place. So I think it's going to have to be finding that committee that puts that plan in place and finding the grants. But it has to have the plan, like you said, Mayor. Give us a plan that shows that we can then track it, that it will have success rates, so we can try and clean it up. So it'll be a win-win for everybody. But I just don't think you can have both downtown and have a win-win situation right now. So that's all I had.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Yes, sir. Again, with the name and address.
Bob McNeely, Heartland Food Bank.
Yes, sir.
So the irony is everybody calls me. Everybody in this county calls me when there's a need. So at the beginning of the summer, when the Jacaranda was being renovated, they called and said 6 students are going to be homeless because we have no place to put them. So I had to call One Hope, my friend Roger Vasquez, who already is trying to house 174 homeless children. So the point is, these things keep growing. I can talk about statistics when it comes to work and work ethic and percentages, like I said. So yeah, I definitely am with her on, we just need to really get to a committee with a specific, point, because you're going to dread the fact that I sat up front there, because I could talk all night, because I deal with this every single day in this county.
Okay.
And I've tried to put Career Source with South Florida State College to create opportunities, and I just don't get the the partnerships. No one's working with me. I'm trying so hard since I moved here. In South Florida, I always said if somebody can make a quarter off of you, they'd call you 20 times. Here, I just haven't been able to get that. So if we can find some way to get those resources together, to get people trained, to get people jobs, I would love to be there. I got every bit of information, calls from all over this county. And I have some resources in terms of my relationship with Feeding America to get some information and some state connection. So
Very good. I think you got rebuttal right behind you.
Sorry. Yes, this is Anastasia Fuchsia with South Florida State College Foundation again. And when we did our renovations on the dorm side, we moved those students that still needed a home to our hotel side. So we did house them. And we have one lady, one young student who she would be homeless. And she has been for the past year, and we help her providing that with her. I mean, she has funding that comes in, so it's not a free service. So we do try to help our students as much as possible. And I think we are working with you as far as our Pete's Pantry. So that's a huge help, and we've moved that in, and I believe we're taking suggestions on how to make that more visible to our students. But we are very much in touch with Career Source as well. And like the young lady mentioned back there, you know, it is all the way down in South Sebring. So if we can work on getting something up here, but again, that one group center place, I think would just be good.
Sure.
But yes, I hope just you understand, we do have a heart and everything, but you have to understand our side as a business owner, and we have to take care of our tenants, our students. And we want downtown to thrive on all aspects. So that's
Very good. All right, so we still have several speakers on the list, so we do need to stop having people come up multiple times. So let's try to get through everything, and then we'll have open questions at the end. We have Heartland Coalition for the Homeless still yet to get to.
Good evening, everyone.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you all, City Council, for inviting me here. My name is Brenda Gray. I'm the Executive Director for Heartland Coalition for the Homeless. And I commend all of the agencies here that provide the food, the clothing, and everything for we call them clients in need. We on a different aspect, we provide rental assistance and rapid rehousing. We are funded by the federal government and the state. We have several different grants that we assist the clients with. We have first the Emergency Solution Grant, and all of our clients have to qualify because, and it's income-based mostly. It's income-based and your need. If the need is there, then we try to provide rental assistance for them. There's two groups of homeless people that we have identified. Folks that's literally homeless, that's living in the shelters, that's living under the bridges, if we had them in the streets, in the woods, like that. And the other group is unsheltered, sheltered and unsheltered. I got that mixed up. If you're unsheltered, you're living in the woods. If you're sheltered, you're living with someone else. You don't have a nighttime place of your own, a rental place of your own. And those are the folks that we're trying to help. We have the Rapid Rehousing Grant, the Emergency Solution Grant, the PSH, Permanent Supportive Housing Grant, that's folks with disabilities, and they can be on that program for at least 12 months. And the bonus grant, we operate with a less than $107,000 operation fee, that funds that we get from the federal government. We just got a new grant in, it's called the RUSH grant. The RUSH grant stands for Rapid Unsheltered Savory Housing. This is folks that was financially affected by Ian. We only got $60,000 to assist. And the only thing with that problem is I manage 6 different counties. I manage DeSoto, Glaze, Hendry, Hardy, Okeechobee, and Highlands County. Highlands County is my biggest county with the most, we identified with, in 2022, we identified 175 homeless, literally homeless people in Highlands County. We could not narrow it down to Avon Park, Lake Placid, and Sebring. Of that 175 individuals, we identified 165 homes that people said that they were homeless. That's the sheltered homeless people. I didn't bring the numbers as to what we served last year because it's just the ending of the fiscal year. We do a fiscal year ending, which ended 30 June. I can get those numbers to you, what we served.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yes. For our bonus grant, we received $90,000 last fiscal year. We got another $90,000 this fiscal year. That means that's only $15,000 that I can spend in Highlands County alone. Okay? The permanent supportive housing grant, we had approximately $167,000. That's only $27,000, maybe $800 in Highlands County, because I have to spend other money in my other counties as well. The challenge grant is only $14,000 that I can spend. Emergency solution grant is $37,000. We did get a grant called the Emergency Solution Grant CV. That's for individuals that was financially affected by COVID. We got another grant in this year that just started 1 July. Of that, I can spend approximately $27,800 here in Highlands County alone. When Church Services was speaking about a grant that we assisted Church Services with, we had got $1.4 million of COVID money. And that was to help people that was financially affected by COVID with all 6 of our counties. So we reached out to the other organizations that was providing services that we could not provide, like food, shelter. We provide shelter, but we like people that was in a hotel. You have to have a plan before we can assist you, because those are the guidelines that HUD put upon us, okay?
Okay.
We can, for homeless prevention, we can assist you every 3 years. For rapid rehousing, that's bringing someone either bumped up with another family or literally in the streets. Then we can assist you. We'll pay 4 months. We'll pay your moving costs. We'll pay your security deposit, and we'll pay your 2 more months just to help you get on your feet. We will also pay your utilities to help the person get into a place. We will provide case management for you for another 6 months. Okay? So we kind of look different than everybody else. And I commend the other agencies that does this. And then and on a closing note, I have 2 case managers position open right now. And if you will call me 863-453-8901, I'll interview you. It starts at $14 an hour without experience. It goes up to $15 an hour with experience. The need is here, not only just in Avon Park. It's needed all over the state of Florida. I'm in a meeting once a week with other continuum of cares. There's 26 continuums of cares in the state of Florida. We're only one. And all of us have the same issue. Rent is too high, true enough. People don't make enough money on their jobs, even if the jobs are there. Any questions?
Ms. Gray, how many paid staff do you have?
It's 3 of us now. No, it's a total of 6. I make the 6th one.
Okay. So 6 people split $107,000 a year?
Just about. Each grant is a little bit, it's got admin fees. It's like my emergency solution grant. It might say I can use $4,000 of that $226,000 for admin fee.
I see.
Yeah. So each grant is I get a little bit out, but I am awarded $107,000 grant called staffing grant. That's just for operation.
Got it.
Okay.
All right, any questions for Ms. Gray?
I have one question, Ms. Gray. If say somebody was in Avon Park unsheltered and they came to you and said, I don't have any place to sleep tonight. Can you offer them a place to sleep or is there a process?
No, what we do is that you have to have a plan. Okay, we just don't put you up because you say you don't have a place to sleep. You have to, we will have funds that we can do a hotel with, but you have to have a plan. You got to have something in place. You have to convince us that, hey, look, you're not just coming about just for us to give you a place to stay. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
I mean, basically, you're looking for somebody who's got a plan, either they have a job or
Yeah,
have
you
a,
have some income in order for us to assist you.
okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. Just give your name and address for the record, please.
And I'm going to be quick because I know we've been here a long time. It's Dr. Bobby Smith Powell. I live at 1418 Penny Avenue, Sebring, Florida. And I'm here to speak on behalf of our organization, HHH of Heartland, and the services that we've been providing over the past 8 years. For the homeless, we do identification cards, social security cards, make family connections, help assist with getting birth certificates, job application assistance, food stamp application assistance. And we're right now in the process of trying to complete a grant to get what the young lady mentioned earlier, Bridges Out of Poverty. With our numbers, our food boxes countywide year to date is 32,840. And that's a mixture that is not just homeless. We distribute once a month now, we do it every week, but it cut down after COVID diminished some. Snack packs go straight out to our homeless. Year to date, we have 1,560. Our showers, year to date, we have 1,058. That's not people, that's the number of actual showers. Clothing, we have 165 outfits packages. Home delivery, we have done 618 drops so far this year. That's not homeless, that's been going to elderly and disabled. We have 3 routes in Sebring. Now, as far as we service individuals all over the county. I can say this, as far as transits, we have had 3 homeless individuals that have moved and relocated to Sebring and are currently homeless in Sebring, were homeless when I was here in Avon Park at the shelter. We have 2 individuals from Lake Placid that were homeless and have transitioned to Sebring. Over this past year, we have had approximately 8 individuals that have relocated here from another state. They did not come by a bus. They all came at different times throughout the year individually. I want to make one comment about how people function and how they work on their needs. It's very difficult when a person has not had their food, water, shelter, and clothing needs met, because there's a little thing that you learn called the hierarchy of needs. And we're all at different levels on that hierarchy. And depending upon which level you're on, if you're up there as self-actualization, it's going to be very difficult for you to come down and function and reason on that basic level need with someone that's not having their basic needs met. A person that has not had their basic needs met is not going to focus on safety, self-actualization, and being successful in life. They're not going to even function on loving and belonging, because they're right at the very bottom of the pyramid. I really wanted that to be expressed because every one of us in here is at a different place. So that means that you can't expect for a homeless person to be worried about he's leaving some trash somewhere. He's worried about probably where he's going to get his next meal from, or where he's going to sleep tonight. Is he going to be safe? I'm not saying it's okay, but I'm hearing 2 different things. I thought I came to a homeless, I came here to listen about the homeless population, but at the same time, and I'm not saying anything is wrong with it because we have to discuss everything that's under this umbrella. But when I look at the umbrella being a homeless umbrella, I don't see it as saying, well, they're doing this in their on downtown in Avon Park. They're downtown in Sebring. They're downtown in Lake Placid, and it's affecting the businesses. We got to identify the problem. If the focus is homelessness, We can't shift it and say it's business or not making money or it's bad for the business. The problem is homelessness. So since the problem is homelessness, sure, it's bad for the business. It's bad for the residences, a residential area if they're doing the wrong thing in the residential area. So we got to keep that focus because to me, it's not just about does it look bad when you come downtown if they're laying on the sidewalks? It looks bad if you go into a neighborhood and they're laying on the grass in the yard in the neighborhood or under a tree somewhere. I just wanted to express that too. Now back to, I want to say something briefly about once there was a dream in America. And that dream was that everyone wanted to, you can own a home. People came across the waters on boats and rafts and everything else just to get to America, to own a home. But we have a severe housing shortage across this nation. And on the continuum, there's a spectrum in everything. On that spectrum, there's a shortage from shelters all the way up to just general housing. When you go from shelters to transitional housing, to subsidized housing, to affordable housing, to workforce housing, to general housing, that's a long spectrum. Some people don't believe in shelters. Some people say start with transitional housing. The fact of the matter is we have a problem and we need a solution. What's the causes of the problems? There's a myriad of problems, causes of the problems. Some people have drug problems. Some people lost a job. Some people are homeless right now because of Hurricane Ian. I'm dealing with that now. Some people lost a job during COVID time because businesses went down. Some people have family situations and they end up homeless. So we can't just say one solution or one cause because there are various reasons why people are homeless. So we need a solution. That's all. And we can come together. All of us can come together, even if it's a committee. We have got to do something. I've been looking for the last 5 years at other places and seeing how bad it is. In the drugs, sure. But what do we need? We need a solution that's going to work. Have I seen anything that other people are doing anywhere? All of us can look around. We can find things. We can do studies. We can do research. There are tiny houses everywhere. We got all these setbacks. We have vacant lots all everywhere. We have, blight and slum where you're tearing down houses because they don't meet the code. And then you have empty lots, grass all growing up. And like someone else was speaking about vacant buildings, sure, you don't want to bring people into a downtown business area and put a shelter there because of all the issues that were discussed. But we got to do something. And in the end, at the end of the day, that's where we are. We have to do something. Are there any questions?
Do you have any solutions that you would suggest that would actually lead to people getting out of poverty?
Well, there's bridges out of poverty that I wanted to do. I'm trying to get a grant to do now. That doesn't mean that's a guarantee. Everybody's not, because that's a whole national thing too, besides that. But there is a program that you can work people through, but everybody's not homeless because of poverty. Some people are homeless because of drug problems. Some people are homeless because of mental health issues. Some people are homeless because they don't have enough education to get a job, so there are various issues, but poverty is just one problem. That's just one.
Okay.
And so we need something for all of these things. I'm not saying we got to be able to come up with a solution all across the spectrum right now, but surely we have got to do something, and we can do something. I'm willing, available, willing to work with anyone that wants to work together. If you need my help, I'm here.
How do people get in touch with you?
Area code 863-451-2230.
Okay, and your organization was again?
HHH Apartment.
Name was?
My name is Dr. Bobby Smith Powell.
There you go. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you.
That number was awful fast. Could I get that again? Her phone number.
It's 863-451-2230. We have a Facebook page called Healed Hearts and Wings of Heartland, but we go by HHH of Heartland. And also I am the executive director of Highlands Hope, and that is a long-term disaster group for Highlands County, and it's just getting started up. So anyone that wants to help out with that, please call my number.
There you go. All right, next on the list, we have Hogar RESA Inc. Yes, ma'am, if you will, name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Anna Schenkel. My address is 318 East Main Street, Avon Park, Florida.
Yes, ma'am.
I reside and thank you for inviting Ogaresa to your meeting. It is a pleasure to be here. Our mission as Ogaresa, we are a rehabilitation center. And me personally, I could tell you about the program, honestly, how it works. I was also that one person with addiction, homeless in the streets, so I know what it is to be judged. And like the young man was saying, how do you differentiate from a person that's gonna use and want food? I did the same thing, so I know what it is. Unfortunately, I was blessed. Ogaresa is a rehabilitation center, 16 months program. We help with the addiction and homeless. As we all know, addiction leads to homelessness. And that is a big problem here in Avon Park also. It is a 16 months program. We have 14 therapies. We are psychotherapeutical established and also spiritual. We have our church that belongs to the residents and also our family members. I am part of the program. I've been a resident in the program for 2 years now. The way we run our house, we are not governmentally funded. We are not federal funded. We are a nonprofit organization. What does that mean? The way we keep our house running and feed ourselves and help out with the house and the necessity of the house that we have is through our donations. That's one of our therapies, which is representation of cells. We go out to the community and ask for donations, and we supply them with a cake or a flan or some cookies in return. That's how we pay our bills, how we buy everything that we need in the house. So we won't, and is part of not being homeless and also rehabilitating from our addiction. Anyone, we have 80 beds for men's. We have 16 for women's. We are in the process of trying to put up the money and save money to open a women's center with children. What does that mean? That is also for women that is in need with their family out on the streets, or also a woman that is in need of rehabilitating herself that has a family and does not have a work plan to take her kids to have her mother watch them or what the case may be. We also help out with if someone's in need and they don't have a place to stay. We have the fundings through our donations because the community helps us with our donations, with our fundings. We pay for at least 2 nights stay at a hotel until they make their work plan. They are allowed to come to the OGAR, any OGAR, the men's center, the women's center, and take a shower, come and have a hot meal. We never turn no one around. A plate of food or a hot shower, whatever the case may need. They need any clothes. Yes, I understand the fact that they leave clothes around. Me as being an addict, an addiction and recovery and being a homeless, I left stuff around too because it is hard to carry around a lot of stuff when you're walking out in the streets. But we have, like I said, we have our own church. The entire community is also welcome. We do receive food donations from Goya Incorporated. They donated food to the OGARs, and we also distribute that through every single facility that we have and to the families that we know that are in need, that let us know they do need food. We give them out some of that food also. And I know you're going to ask me about, have you had success? Yes, we have. We have a lot of graduates from our program. I am one of them also. I also walk down that aisle. We have a lot of them. We have a 5-year follow-up program that we actually have to call in and come and visit the OGAR every year. We walk down that again. We have a few graduates from the program. We have a lot of them that are very successful now. They have their own house, their families, they're working. We reunite people with their families and everything else. And our mission is stating that we can do anything through God. Practically anything, because without God, we can't do nothing. Regardless if you believe in God or not, without him, there's nothing. We won't be here without him. So
agreed.
Amen. Amen. But we do have, like I said, I have some brochures here that I will pass along to y'all. I have the young ladies here give them to y'all when we leave. And I have also a little statement and business cards for y'all. If y'all do know of anyone out there that has an addiction and it is out there in the streets, or even if they're not out in the streets, we are here to help them. So if y'all have any questions, I have my young administrator assistant here, or administrator from the office here, that she will answer any questions y'all have.
Mayor, I have a question from someone who's watching on Zoom. I don't believe they have a microphone. So I'll ask for them.
Okay.
The first question they asked was, does the Avon Park Housing Authority have extra housing? Their second question was, are the centers at Hogar Reza for local people or brought in from other places, and wanted to know what percentages are from Avon Park?
Let me answer that one. We have residents from Puerto Rico, New York. We have residents from all over the state, all over the country. There is no limitations. You don't have to be a Highlands County or an Avon Park resident to reside in our program. We do not discriminate at all. And we also, if case may be, and we have the donation funds in the family, we also help them bring you over here. So there is no, you could be from anywhere and we still will accept you.
The individual is asking, or
Ma'am?
stating,
Ma'am, I'm sorry. To finish that off, we are not, any religion is welcome. If there's a certain religion that has to do their religious traditions, then yes, that is allowed. We do not discriminate. If, let's say, you know, because we've had Muslims, we've had, you know, Christian, Catholic, every religion you can imagine we've had in our program, and that it's all been a success because we don't preach one certain orthodox. It's God and what he can do for us to get better.
Sure. I think specifically the question was what percentage is from Highlands County and abroad? Do you have any idea?
Probably like 5%, not even that.
It's from Highlands County?
Yes, everyone else is, me personally, I'm from Lee County. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of us, they're from, we have young girls here that are from Orlando.
Sure. That's
So,
just
yeah.
what the question was. So that's
Okay.
why I was trying to get them an answer. So do you have any idea what your graduation rate is or success rate is at the 5-year mark?
At the 5-year mark, it has been pretty much 100%.
Really?
Yes,
Wow. Well, that's a very successful program then.
yes, it is, sir.
So, good. Any other questions for Hogar?
Yes.
Yeah, I have a question. Is there a fee?
There is not a feed.
That fee was asked by Brenda Gray.
Yeah, Brenda Gray.
Okay, we like the young lady was saying, we are a nonprofit organization, but we do not charge them. Now, if the family wants to make a donation, then it's a blessing. But we are not going to turn our backs on you if you do not have the money to come in. And which is something very good because a lot of people have been turned away from regular rehabilitation centers because they don't have insurance.
Sure.
The only issue that we may have, which we would need to get help with one of our companions here, would be someone that would help with mental health issues. We cannot physically help people that have mental health issues that are violent due to the fact that we have other residents and we need to have, you know, it's a safety issue.
Sure.
But other than that, we do not turn our backs on no one.
Okay. And I believe you already said that your donations are what fund you, and those donations come from private sources, not federal sources or.
That is correct. We don't receive any funds from the government.
actually, I just wanted to mention, she did have one more question, if you don't mind. She asked how many, or excuse me, would you separate spaces for residents to assist existing homeless in Avon Park? And how is someone able to apply for your program?
Okay, at this time, we do not have facilities that are just specifically for the homeless. Because most of our residents that come in with the addiction are homeless. They're not people that have a physical address. If you see our paperwork, all of them say homeless because they were homeless. So at this time, we do not have anything available for just a specific homeless because we are trying to help the community with the addiction of alcohol and drugs. Okay, and what was the other part of the question?
How can she apply for the program?
All she has to do, she can either email us at ogarressainc@gmail.com. She can contact any one of our
any one of our centers. We have, of course, the Women's Center. We have one, and we have five men's centers. Okay, we're working towards the Mother and Children's Center. So, but yeah, she can call the main house, which is, okay, the phone number is 863-657-2057, if I'm not mistaken. That is the main house on West Hill Street, or 863-212-1366, which is the state director. He will orientate you. I'm sorry, the phone number was 863-657-2064. My apologies.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Ma'am, you had a question in the back. You have to come to the microphone to ask your question.
While she does that, I'd like to make one comment. I want to thank you all for coming, because I don't think that most of us really knew there was an organization in Avon Park that would actually help people who had drug addiction. And I think that even though you said that there was a low percentage of people from Avon Park or Highlands County, and maybe now the word will get out that those that are in our area need help. Now they know where to go. And I thank you for coming here and bringing that information, because I've talked to other people who really didn't know hardly anything about your organization at all. I think now they will. So thank you very much.
And another thing, thank you for the invitation. It's not just Spanish, even though the name is in Spanish. We are bilingual. We've had people from all nationalities, and we even in church, I translate in English when the pastor, which is right there, he's preaching, or the service, we translate, we do Spanish and English, and we try to accommodate everyone.
Okay. Ma'am, did you have a question for Hogarth?
Capacity? What's your capacity? How many?
80 and 16.
Huh?
80 men, 16 women.
Yep. And ma'am,
Yes,
ma'am,
we have,
for
sorry,
the record, your name was?
we have 4 men houses in Avon Park,
How
1 women's center in Avon Park, and we have 1 house in Wachula.
many women in Highlands County? How many capacity for women?
In Avon Park, it's 16.
16. In Wachula?
Wachula, I'm not, because it's 80 total. He counted, for all the houses. But yeah, we do have a home in Wachula.
All right. So obviously, we're meeting here as a city council. So the point is to see what the city council can do for these issues that are being brought up tonight. So keep that in mind. If there's solutions that the city council can do, that's kind of the whole point why we're here. So that concludes the amount of speakers that we had on the list. The only last thing we have is homeless individuals. Are there any homeless individuals wishing to speak on this issue tonight? Seeing none. Is there anything else for the good of the city? Yes, sir. And everyone's going to get one opportunity to speak, and then we're done. Name and address for the record.
Joseph Herrera, State Road 27.
Yes, sir.
Off the grid, tiny house.
Okay.
I'm going to make a point here. City of Las Vegas was housing a contractor, decided to take matters into his own hands, spend about $500 making a plywood box with a door, and put the homeless in there. They were happy. One lady said, "I'm happier here than in the homeless shelter. In the homeless shelter, I'm obligated to leave at 5 or 6 in the morning.
Right.
Here, I consider it my house, even if it's just 5 by 5. In Denver, Colorado, the city bought some igloo tents. They're $300 to $500. They're very well insulated. They will survive the winters in Denver. They put them in an empty parking lot, fenced it in, and they're there. We can go to those places and ask them, what is your success? Did the people like it? If they start littering and trashing the place, there are laws that says do not litter, $250 fine, spend the night at the sheriff hotel. And then when they decide to come back and clean, they'll let them out.
Okay.
We have many storage places, storage facilities in town. We have where the Food Lion used to be, it just opened. They're air conditioned. 5x10, we can put a bed in there, get them off the streets tonight. Okay, it only costs $50 to $80 a month. You can work at Home Depot and afford to pay that.
Sure.
I have a friend in Bonita Springs that did that. At $8.25 an hour, he worked at Home Depot and he rented a place for $80 a month. And he lived in a warehouse for a few months. That's a solution. We get them off the streets and maybe they will appreciate it. If we can ask them, we're not going to obligate them to do that, but we can ask them, do you mind if we put you here?
Okay.
If not, we find them a homeless center, we find them something else, like the folks that have just spoken.
Sorry.
But we can see from the successes from the other parts of the country, what they've done. Seattle and Oregon is a mess. They got a junkyard of people living in a big mess. And they're not finding any solutions. We can see what we can do. And it's not expensive. We don't have to wait 5 years and build a high-rise building for $50 million like some cities are saying. So there's a lot to say.
Okay.
I got a lot to say, but we don't have the time.
Appreciate your comment, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak on the issue? Yes, sir. Name and address for the record.
Terrence Wills, C. Oats Lane, Sebring, or Avon Park. Like the young lady with the jacaranda, we too see the business side of things, and that's part of my aspect. And I don't mean any disrespect, towards anybody here tonight, but, we've heard, Mr. LaBelle and the sheriff talk about constitutions and everybody has rights. But as a governing body, if we can take an individual to court and find them unjust to have firearms, why can we not take these individuals who we know that are on record to court to have them evaluated to see just how mentally they are? Because that is their number one excuse. I have mental issues. And if so, why can't we involuntarily commit them to some type of treatment, the state hospital, something that says we need to get you help on a state level, a community level, something like that.
Jerry, any response?
Well, it's not an easy thing to have somebody involuntarily committed in such a manner. And there has to be some pretty outrageous behavior to get to that point. And that it has happened in Avon Park back a number of years ago. We had a couple of situations like that, but I would simply say it's not as easy as it is to say it.
Okay, with that, I sent an email out with some videos to everybody here, Mr. Blackman, that showed some pretty outrageous behavior. And I think, and I wished the council would have showed that tonight, so the individuals here from all of the groups could see what we're dealing with late night in Avon Park. And it sounds like, for Mr. LaBelle and the sheriff, the city and the county is doing everything they can to protect themselves. We're shutting off power here, there, but that only forces those individuals into the residential, into the businesses, because they can't go anywhere else. And unlike a homeowner, we can't just turn our power off. We can't just, I've spent an ungodly amount of money just in my place. Every time I think I'm one step ahead of them, I'm 2 steps behind. And I just keep, barricading and I sent the sheriff's department deputy that came out for this individual in the video. The next day, I sent him another video. There's a drug deal going right on in broad daylight in the side yard of my business between a homeless individual and what I call a civilian, a normal civilian. And so it's just things like that that's happening right in front of us, and I still haven't gotten any follow-up from the sheriff's department. I wanted to press charges for the individual in my video. I still haven't gotten anywhere with that. So, it's just, as a city, there's ordinances, can we get an ordinance that says no temporary living structures, which means for anybody, if you have a camper in your yard and it's plugged in, you're living in it, you can't do that. If you've got a. if
That
you-
is an ordinance currently.
If you've got a tarp thrown across a tree and you're sleeping under it, can you go to that individual and say it's an ordinance? Instead, we leave it upon the property owner to go out there and clean up what they leave behind. And it's everywhere. I mean, like you said, the clothing. And it's like they go through the trash and they collect things that are meaningful to them. I mean, which I'm sure they are.
Sure.
And then they leave them behind.
Sure. Randy, do you want to respond to, let's say that you guys are out patrolling for code violations and you see a tent popped up in a set of bushes on a obviously private piece of property? What do you do in that scenario?
Chapter 162, which is again what we're governed by, we can only cite the owner of the property. Unfortunately, at that point, we would notify the owner of the property that there is a violation of city ordinance. It would be up to the property owner to ask that individual to leave. If that individual does not leave, then it would be up to the property owner to contact the sheriff's office for now again, I've been out 6 years, things may have changed and I can let them do it. But before that, they would issue a trespass warning. You didn't leave, you went to jail for trespass after warning. I don't know if things have changed. I mean, I would let them, the experts actually opine on that.
Sheriff, same question. Obviously, if a patrol car sees a random tent that's obviously a homeless type encampment on a private piece of property, is there any action that gets taken by the sheriff's department, or is that something you leave up to the code enforcement, or how does that work?
A deputy respond, just driving down the road who sees a tent is probably not going to do anything because it's on someone's private property. If the property owner calls us and says, hey, look, there's someone on our property. Could you investigate this? We would certainly do that.
Sure.
And if they want to have them removed from the property, then we would explain them what their options are. One of them being a trespass warning. Depending upon the situation, it could be where they're in the back of, the back of a residence, in a metal shed or something of that nature. And evictions have to be done as opposed to just getting a trespass warning. There's a lot of steps that have to be taken into that. It has to be done in the proper manner.
Okay.
Sheriff, while we have you at the microphone, could you respond to the issue of litter? I know it's been stated that, we should arrest the people that are littering, but what are the possibilities of you catching the person? And as I understand it, you can't actually get even, it's a misdemeanor. You actually have, a sheriff's deputy has to actually see it occur. Can't take it from somebody else that occurred.
Well, you're absolutely correct in a certain aspect of it, but when we're talking about litter, are we talking about, someone throws a soda can on the side of the road, or are we talking about where someone is dumping a felony amount of garbage or something? And it depends based upon the weight of whatever that is being discarded.
Well, I'm referring to like if there's a tent area, then, camping area and then there's garbage out there. You're not going to really be able to tell who did that unless it's just one person there.
In a situation such as that, we would probably load it all up, take it to the landfill, have it weighed, and then make a determination based upon the weight of everything together. Does it amount to felony charges? You're absolutely correct from a standpoint, if it's a misdemeanor and we don't have any witnesses that will come forth and give us a sworn statement, we're probably going to have to not make a charge on that.
Okay.
So
any follow-up questions?
I guess my question is can there be an ordinance to where there is no temporary sleeping structures?
Yeah, that's what
we
we're
have
discussing.
one, not that we.
That's what we're discussing tonight.
Can it be revised?
There can be, but enforcement wise, you need that person that homeless person needs to have a place to go before an arrest can be made, and they have to refuse to go to it in order for that to even begin to occur. So, it's a difficult situation.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'll make this quick. Harlan Food Bank. I think we have a lot of good pieces together. We've had some near misses to work together. I will say that on September 12th at 1 o'clock in the county commission county administrator's office, we are putting together a group of people that work in the industry, a lot of people in this room, to come together to try to work on some of these solutions. I think that's countywide, but for city specific, I think having a similar group to, to really focus on Avon Park would actually be a good thing. So I think that's the starting point. If somebody on the commission can create that group and say, or the city administrator and say, this is what the county can do, this is what we do together, I think that would be a perfect start.
Sure. Okay. All right. Anyone else wishing to speak on this issue? Seeing none. That concludes our agenda. If there's nothing else for the good of the city, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, please.
Seeing no opposition, we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Appreciate the comment.